something like that that would allow you to converge. Hey, I got my Apple phone, I got some games, and these are the people that I know have games. They had Game Center, but that's too far off in the woods in the discovery process. So, thank goodness for Apple for cleaning it all up, but it is, I think, good for the industry to have the pendulum come back to a degree. But screw the other OEMs, they blew it. Microsoft, no. Sorry, that's a personal opinion on the last part.
Okay. So I'll give out. I mean, there's one other interesting point, which is people would love to. One potential way to get around the app stores is to build your app, quote unquote, inside of the browser, which Google's been quite good with Chrome. You're quite able to build an app inside of a browser these days, actually. Spotify is a great example of that. You go on your desktop, laptop, and Twitter as well. You go to twitter.com versus the Twitter app for Mac, or spotify.com versus the Spotify app for Mac. It's pretty much the same exact goddamn pixel for pixel thing. There's really no difference. So, but particularly in Chrome, Safari, it's been accused, is kind of intentionally lagging in that regard of enabling apps in the browser functionality, so to keep developers to build apps instead of building them in the browser. An interesting headline we saw in the past couple of days was Zoom is now usable inside of the browser, and people can now share a link to a Zoom session, popping you right in the browser. You don't have to download Zoom and create the user account and all that mess. And that's great. And that's getting around the App Store. But so that's one point, is maybe Apple could do a better job of keeping Safari up to speed, and then people would use the browsers more as a replacement for building standalone apps. Secondly, it's interesting that the era of the App Store itself is really in its golden hours, where the sun is kind of setting on the smartphone era, and we're going into the new era of AR VR. To contextualize that, this desktop era officially launched with the launch of Windows 95 in 1995 and ended with the launch of the iPhone in 2007. So you had 12 years of the desktop era, and now we've had, since 2007 until now, however many years that is, 14 years of the smartphone era. And that now is coming to a close with the launch of the AR VR era, which officially launches probably at WWDC in April next year, officially, which will be the launch of Apple's AR VR headset. Famous last words, knock on wood. But all signs point to that. But so it's just kind of weird that we're now cracking down on the App Store duopoly as the sun is setting on its kind of marquee relevance.
Tyler, these progressive web apps,
yes,
which you just
yes.
talked about,
yes,
in mobile itself, you can have those icon. There, the only problem is Apple in development of these progressive web app, because they do not allow those access to native features like contact access. So that's the only features for which people are building apps now. Otherwise, they won't touch this. They won't touch. They won't like building apps, because progressive web apps are so smooth. They work. Browsers have become actually strong. The reason for development of apps, it came because browsers used to be really weak. Now browsers hence have become so strong that there is no point of building an app if you think logically. It's only Apple which is creating this mess.
Okay, so thank you for that. I agree. I mean, and this was always kind of the vision, was that they would exist inside the apps. And I think even Steve Jobs, it's been reported, he believed that himself. He actually, that was part of the iPhone that he didn't actually perceive, was the whole App Store and the power of the App Store. He really thought everything would go through the browsers. And I was at the All Things Digital conference in Carlsbad, San Diego, my hometown, coincidentally, which is actually where we launched. Jason and I were there to launch Mahalo, and that was the event where Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were on stage together, because Steve knew he had gotten cancer, and he wanted to do one last on-stage appearance with Bill Gates and tell him, essentially that he loved him, that he really thought of him as his John Lennon, Paul McCartney, kind of colleague and equal in many ways. And it was a very small room, only about 200 people in the room, audience, incredibly exclusive event, as you can imagine. And during that was 2007, about 2 months before the iPhone launched, but it was known that the iPhone was coming, or something like the iPhone was coming, and people were asking him questions. He did a little live Q&A session at the end of the little chat, which you can see the interview online with Walt Mossberg and Kara Swisher, where they facilitated the conversation with Steve and Bill. And which, by the way, I can just tell you because the camera never showed the audience, but there was not a dry eye in the room at the end of it. It was like a real tearjerker. And the point, one of the questions was about the iPhone coming up, how the apps are going to work on it. And Steve, even still, and just a few months before the kickoff of it, was still thinking, the mobile browser is going to be able to do kind of everything. And it was somebody else at Apple that had to really convince him that the real opportunity was this App Store opportunity, which was a new concept, which, by the way, is itself a phenomenal invention. This concept of an App Store, which everybody has replicated, and including Zoom itself now has its own App Store, ironically. So, it's a great paradigm. It's a very useful innovation, and they deserve a ton of credit for that. But it wasn't Steve kind of pushed back on that internally, that he really felt like, no, why would we do that? No, you build in the browser, it operates everywhere. And I feel like Apple it has intentionally kind of not kept up pace on their browser for that purpose, Michael.
I think he was, as much as I love Steve, I do think he was a bit elitist in his vision there. And I think, because I understand what he's saying, and I absolutely agree with him. The problem is, and this is why I think that the App Store is still so valuable. I think the sunset period for the App Store, wildly enough, will probably be 10 to 15 years. And I think the reason that it'll go for another 10 to 15 is because the evolution of VR and AR also still highly dependent upon both getting the technology smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's got to recycle through that process of doubling down in its size over the next couple of pairs of years, and then also the cost of entry, I think, is the entry point is going to also keep the sunset years kind of extended on the App Store and using smartphones. And then there's the whole, browsers, the technology is there, but we still have the problem of getting Wi-Fi and getting good internet and fast enough internet for that technology to replace apps, to be there in many parts of the world that still don't even have access to internet yet, let alone parts of our world that do have access, but it's just shit slow. So I think it's a weird kind of perfect storm where the sunset period of the App Store, or even the smartphone in general, I shouldn't say the App Store because that's going to go on forever. There's App Stores even in VR, but the sunset period of smartphones, I think, could last a good decade, if not a decade and a half.
Yeah. Well, we're still using laptops, and I'm still downloading apps on my laptop. My point is, one second here. I was just going to make the point that for the real kind of savvy entrepreneurs, they understand that there's a huge opportunity when a new platform starts and a new app store opens, namely the Oculus App Store, or whenever Apple opens its, VR, AR app store, or Niantic we're reading headlines lately that make it very clear that Niantic is aiming to be a big player in AR. So true. If you've got one of those first 50 apps in that Niantic App Store or that Snapchat App Store for their AR, or if they merge if they share app stores, holy shit, that would be genius, by the way. So that they compete with Oculus and Google and Apple, because they're not going to share app stores. Although I wonder if Snap has its own operating system for its glasses, or are they going to use is Google going to come out with an Android for AR and AR wearables?
They would have to, huh?
I imagine they will. Of course, they will for their own devices. And the question is, will that then enable everyone to make their own? It might even be. This is kind of wild. Yeah, it depends. We don't yet. It's not yet clear if AR will tap into your phone, and it's basically just a camera on the outside and inside of your glasses, and your phone is still doing all the hard work, but it's in your pocket. And if that's the case, then Android's really in a great position because they really don't have to do a whole lot.
That's one of
Yeah, I
the
was.
concept cars that they're going to go for the platform. It is either it's going to be one device that you throw in your pocket or you pop on your face for AR because it's a dual use device, or it'll be part of that network just like the watch is today. And price point is going to be a real key to how which one of those two concept cars takes off.
Yeah,
It would be really smart to keep the GPU and the CPU in the pocket, Tyler. I think
I agree.
that's definitely how it's a very quick method while we're working on actually shrinking the technology. That's one way to just shrink it. Simulate shrinking it for now.
Yeah, the battery and all that. But then the point
Sorry, do you
is,
mind if
yeah,
I
go ahead,
jump for
Mobana.
one small thing before we move on? Because I know we're going deep into the AR topic, but I wanted to go back a little bit
Go.
because the concept of the browser being very useful has caught up in lately to be able to supply an
Right.
app store. Sorry, the OS is interesting, but then I don't think it's been mentioned, but don't forget the value of the notifications ecosystem.
Good
Do you
point.
think WhatsApp or even Clubhouse would be so powerful without the strong Android and iOS notification system?
Great
And the
point.
notifications are bigger than SMS, and SMS was a huge business,
Only
right? In fact,
Safari doesn't allow. Chrome allows notifications in PWA. Chrome allows everything. You can do everything if you're.
yeah, but on the phone, think about it on sleep mode, being able to manage those notifications. That's quite an integral part of the OS. So yeah, I know you can do quite a bit with Chrome more and more, but let's not. I think a crucial part of the OS that's allowed it to survive, and I think will give it more steam. And those who want to compete with iOS and Android need to think about how they can build such an amazing notification ecosystem, right? I mean, it really is. If you think about if you remove notifications tomorrow, the whole thing will collapse. Both of those OSs collapse, and Windows Phone and Nokia and others, and even KaiOS trying to do a cheap, sort of hybrid OS for feature a smartphone. They never nailed this important piece. I mean, Uber rides. How are you gonna notify people about Uber rides? Instagram notifications, your Twitter. It's just the list goes on and on about what's enabled them. Just wanted to add that so that people
Yeah.
really understand. Because I don't think I've heard about that.
I think it's a great point. I think they would need to ask for your phone number and send you a sort of SMS-ish like notification, whether that's through direct SMS, although that gets a little expensive in many cases at scale. So great point though, Mobana. That is one of the absolute limiting factors. I was just going to make the point though that with AR coming out, even if Android is and the smartphone is the basis of AR, and AR is just the glasses and frames that you wear on your face that extend your phone onto your face, to put it bluntly, still there's going to have to be a separate channel inside of those app stores for the AR apps, right?
You're
Similar
right.
to games, similar to so. You're
Yeah, but that's I think what Apple is doing with the Apple Arcade, right? Already,
right.
they're testing another
Yes.
channel
Yes.
to push their own apps, and then they will just probably try to somehow transpose this into the AR and metaverse part.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting when we also think about that is it's not so because Juana, you have a good point in the sense that the thing that makes the Apple Watch so convenient is that it did do exactly what you just described, which was to move notifications to something that was simpler to access. I get to keep my phone in my pocket, or I can even leave it in the office. And if I'm talking to someone, I can discreetly check notifications on my wrist. I can reply on my wrist, all these types of things. And I think the evolution to that versus revolution to that would be AR. You've got your glasses on, and you can continue to keep eye contact but receive these notifications kind of and know if it's an important thing or if your mom just wants you to pick up milk. I think that it's really just the convenience of moving that information and data in front of your eyes is the evolutionary part that and versus revolutionary, but it's the evolutionary part that kind of moves us in that direction. But I think I think we all have really solid points as to why all of these technologies will continue to exist in one form or another. And Tyler, that point of the GPU CPU in your pocket thing is just I that's huge, huge, huge.
Yeah. I'm super excited because it's not that often that you have the chance to be one of the early apps in a new platform ecosystem like you can today with AR VR. And you can, even on the iPad, Evernote, just was right there. They put it all on the iPad when it came out to make an app that was really useful for, and just, or Pocket, if you're there when there's only 50 apps to choose from, you're getting 100% of all users at least seeing you. That discovery issue we were talking about, if
Yeah.
in the same way that if you're late on the train, to use your metaphor, the discovery isn't worth a whole lot. You really got to fight incredibly hard to break through the millions of apps that are now in these stores. But if you're if you're at the start of the train when it's hasn't even left the station yet, oh boy, I mean that is the discovery value is worth millions of dollars of free marketing essentially.
Do you
I
want
was
to?
just reading that Oculus has 501 apps on the secondary markets, which they call the lab app, and in their primary store they only have 298. So perhaps Michael can talk about how Oculus strategically moving forward, how they can I guess navigate with their developers, because he has great insight on that.
Well, what's interesting about it is that when people, particularly with Oculus, when people sideload into Oculus, that in itself is because it's such a brand new platform. People are willing to. You remember the days back back when people had to jailbreak their iPhones. It was very similar to that, where people wanted to do it because it was such a new thing and because it was a necessary thing. And that's kind of what's going on with Oculus right now. But they're slowly approaching a point where, and it's very interesting. I do believe that Oculus is handling their personal store pretty well so far. Side loading is definitely a very big market, and I think that it's very, very smart. Facebook allows it to happen, I think, because it's very, very easy to see what people actually like, and then Facebook, like a fucking shark, can just come in and make a better version of whatever's doing well on the side because they have that bird's eye view. So if they see, if for example, JT comes out with an app and people are sideloading it and they're reading through all the comments and they're like, man, if they only added this, this, and this, well, Facebook gets to say, well, JT doesn't have the budget to add all of this, but we do. Mwahaha, and they build their version of that and release it on the real store. And now JT's hopes and dreams are crushed. Or they just buy JT out and kind of bring him into the fold. Either way it goes, there's a shit ton of money to be made right now because of how young it is, just like Tyler was pointing out. And I think that that's really, I think the overall key to all of this, and I think it's always been the key, just figuring out how to fucking kind of spot the entry points to just get in early. If you can be in front of the train instead of running next to it and trying to hop on, that's really where you want to be. And I think that's the point that Tyler keeps kind of banging home here. It's currently not even at the all aboard stage. Everyone's kind of waiting on the platforms. How many of us are going to jump in front of the fucking train and get that head start? And how many of us are going to kind of, at some point a couple years down the line be like, well, it's unfair because it's impossible to get our app seen in the Oculus store. Like, we got to get in front of it right now, literally.
Yeah,
These
Michael,
platforms,
jump up on, get a little closer on your mic. By the way, you sound like you're 10 feet away.
Copy that.
Tyler, I think
Yeah.
Ken has a hot mic. Okay, great.
Okay.
can I just put one last thing? It's
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
the installed base. These platform wars have been going on for decades, and there's a timing issue. So when you're early, it's great to be the first, but the question is how many people are actually there, right, at the party. So it's all for more for some of the just bigger developers. There's always kind of a time frame. They do all their forecasting to try to get a sense. And part of the challenge with this AR and VR is just it's been one of those ever growing. It's going to be here, so it's kind of a lot of people are still on the sidelines, but it's going to be popping real quick here.
I've got
Well,
the
we've never
perfect.
been at this point where is that better sound, Tyler?
Yes.
Okay, we've never been at this point though where that's the fucking thing about it. Y'all know how much I hate Facebook, but quite frankly, what they've done with Oculus when they bought out Oculus and subsidized it and really just they've started to get a market built where genuinely in the next 2 years there's going to be over 40 million user base happening in VR, and that's fucking incredible. We've never been to that point. Yeah, we've always talked about it, and there's always been these little weird tests where you walk around in the mall and there's some queue and you do some weird kind of VR thing in the middle of the mall in front of everybody, but it's never been in the palm of your fucking hand and on your actual head at home and with this type of fidelity, let alone pinpoint accuracy. And now that we're at that point, the train's about to fucking move. Like for real, this is where it
Yeah,
happens.
so
And we
let me
have
read.
to be able
Let
to
me read
identify
this
that.
headline. So the headline today, and actually in the past few hours, from the Guardian in the UK, says techies think we're on the cusp of a virtual world called the metaverse. I'm skeptical. Written by Sean Monahan. Silicon Valley has been anticipating virtual reality for more than 3 decades and keeps running into the same problem. People mostly like actual reality. It says. Au contraire, Sean. Apparently,
What
Sean.
the fighting with people you don't agree with, not being able to look people in the eye anymore, that part of reality?
Yeah, I don't think Sean has kids with a iPad. So it says maybe this will be my Paul Krugman moment. So he's already, conditioning his entire blog post by starting off saying this. I may be completely embarrassed for the rest of my life by writing this. Nobel Prize winning economist and New York Times columnist was famously the winner of the study to establish which op-ed commenter was most consistently correct. Anyway, in 1989, he also famously claimed Paul was wrong, and so he's realizing this could be a tragic embarrassment writing this post, and he has to say that because he knows he might be wrong. So the metaverse, for those who don't know, is still mostly hypothetical virtual world accessed by special virtual reality and augmented reality technology, AR and VR. The idea is to create a sort of next level internet overlaid on our physical world. People plugged into the metaverse exist in our physical world like everyone else, but can see and interact with things that others can't. Think the Matrix or the Star Trek holodeck or Fortnite-esque brandscapes or of Ready Player One. The concept of the metaverse isn't new, blah, blah, blah. This is all boring for everyone in this room. But interesting that this journalist was taking an interesting stance to take it on, but by starting your whole article by admitting that this might be, the biggest mistake of your life by writing this, even this guy can't bring himself to really make a strong claim that we're not on the precipice of AR and VR. We absolutely are. And as Michael says, it's never been like this. We've never been, under $400 for the flagship device in the market. I mean, that's less than most smartphones to get, the Oculus Quest 2. It's got all kinds of games. It's got hundreds of apps already. People are already spending, an incredible amount of time and it's here for a lot of people who want it to be. So anyway, and I really feel like AR is the actual bigger opportunity in the short term, like meaning in the next 2 years, 3 years. And then VR is still actually a little bit off, but AR is going to be the bigger opportunity, which I think Apple agrees with that. Niantic, which is Pokemon Go, the founder, John, who by the way is a lovely guy, spoke at one of my events one year. He put out a tweet yesterday saying that they're big believers in not only augmented reality, but in augmenting humanity, meaning he really believes AR can be a tremendous force for good and not a force for bad. And that's why they're behind it and so optimistic about it. They're doing it. We've got the hardware. And in fact, it turns out the hardware isn't the big, heavy lifting deal. It's a camera on the outside of the frame, and it's just somehow getting the image into your eyes through the lenses. and the interesting use cases are plentiful for sure. So it is what it is. So anyway, I just wanted to share that article from the Guardian. Indeed, techies do believe we're on the cusp of a virtual world called the metaverse.
It's weird he would say that though, considering Facebook literally just changed like their stance on what kind of company they are. Like they flat out said, "We from now on we're a metaverse company. Like this is our focus moving forward."
Yeah. Yeah.
His point about reality, that people prefer reality, is like what decade? Where is this guy trapped? His
That's what I'm
mind.
one. Yeah, great
It's
point.
like almost $200 billion in games, and so
Yes.
the amount of time we spend on these freaking devices, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Director to other. There's a.
Jason, you're unmuted.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, next big headline. So we've made it through only the first big headline thus far. Not bad. 40 minutes. It's amazing how consistent that is. That we get into a 40-minute deep dive on the top headline each time. That's happened like half the time now. So the second big headline is from the New York Times and others reporting that Reddit raises $410 million, led by Fidelity Investments, which is Aaron's with Fidelity. Is Aaron on stage? Not today. He normally joins us in the other time zone. So Fidelity just put in $410 million into Reddit at a $10 billion valuation, up from $6 billion valuation 6 months ago. Not bad. Not a bad increase in valuation, nearly doubling their valuation in the last 6 months. When it raised $250 million, the new round could reach $700 million in terms of how much they're raising. And it's being reported by the Stock Trading Frenzy earlier this year, heaped a ton of attention. Oh, Reddit owes a lot of its growth to Wall Street Bets, ironically, because the Wall Street Bets community is based on Reddit, where they talk about stocks and what stocks they're going to get into and back and blah, blah, blah. And because they got into GameStop and, we're doing all this short squeezing,
Bitcoin.
It got an incredible amount of free marketing from that, and attention and validation, respect, legitimacy.
Do they monetize on Reddit? I mean, how are they substantiating that valuation?
Great question. So, and then what are they planning to do with the money? I just saw it says Reddit will raise 700 other existing investors post money valuation $10 billion. CEO Steve Huffman said Reddit plans to use the additional investments to underpin the expansion into new markets and product improvements, such as enhanced video capabilities and making the website run faster. The video part's pretty cool. I have to imagine they're going to get into e-commerce as well. I don't see why they wouldn't. It's technically not that hard to do and incredibly lucrative to do so. And I have to imagine that was part of their pitch deck for this new round and why the valuation is so much bigger, because they are people don't think of them as one of the big social networks, but in reality, in terms of metrics, they sort of are. They have people spending hours each day on Reddit, and that affection for those communities is highly monetizable if you add in an e-commerce element. And if you can come up with really good use cases for essentially marketers would love to market products and services to these communities, and each Reddit subgroup, or subreddits as they're called in the Reddit world, have demographics, and they have certain genders and ages and geographies that marketers would love to tap into. And if you can find a way to do that through video and through click little buy buttons, which Shopify can do for them rather automagically, here we are. Shopify really is enabling this whole e-commerceification of social media, of which Reddit is a interesting version of a social media platform. So indeed, in light of that, their valuation does go up.
And they have a strong social audio service now that they've just launched.
Yeah, but Reddit users are completely different set of breed. I'm not sure if your traditional marketing model is gonna work there. They're pretty smart way of marketing. Some of the folks did using meme clubs, but that's also like asking for revolution from memers, or that sort of marketing happens there.
And then Jeremiah, who's in the audience, DMs me, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of Jeremiah, to say that they also do tokens. Yeah, they're an incredibly savvy user. In fact, of the quote unquote social networks, we don't really think of Reddit as a social network, but they are definitely social. They're definitely communities. It's definitely kind of this. They're without a doubt the savviest of the large kind of online communities. Very savvy.
It's where I go. It's where I go.
Yeah, I'm there too. I mean,
for me,
Yeah,
I use
I
Reddit.
go as well.
I use Reddit because the comments are really what drive what's true and what's not. And I know it's subject to astroturfing, etc. But if you have critical thinking, like we've learned here, Reddit's a great place for you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone's trying to copy the upvoting, downvoting system. Even Twitter is
you know
looking
what's
at
so funny
copying
about that? This is the weird thing. For the hardcore geeks, we remember, what was Kevin Rose's version called that competed with
Dig.
Dig. D-I-G-G. And when Dig
I
came
still go to
out,
Dig.
Dig actually had pole position. They were in the they were competing. They were a competitor of Reddit, but Reddit was like the B zone. It was kind of like the not where folks were. Dig was the hot spot to be. I'm trying to think of another example of this where it was like
Pounds, Milk, there's a couple of those.
Oh, those were Kevin's other apps, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
just comparing Dig to Reddit, everyone was on Dig. Reddit was thought of as like
It was like Google News, really.
Yeah.
Because it just had
But it's a really
speed of
I'm just making the case that Reddit had the market kind of sewn up and then dropped the ball, and then here comes Reddit just kind of chugging along, didn't give up, kept the train rolling. Next thing you know, they kind of took over the space and did
AMAs are a huge phenomenon, and they get a lot of revenue from sponsored AMAs. So lots of revenue upside from brands.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reflection of the new valuation is they figured out obviously to get the valuation to jump that much this quickly. Clearly, they have a very strong case for strong monetization that the investors bought into. It's not on. Yeah.
And just a side question, Tyler, you mentioned Spotify there, and that the share price of Spotify, really went up. I think maybe a couple of months ago or something. But the question is, it's a side question to this. What do you think was driving that? Was it like, these sorts of companies getting, the green light with investment and people making the match to say it could be a big Spotify or a big, Shopify investment here, or what do you think was really behind that growth?
Behind Shopify's growth?
Yes, yeah, Shopify's recently.
Shopify is enabling anyone with a lot of traffic. Well, to simplify it, in China. I think they can very quickly point to Pinduoduo in China, where we have Amazon e-commerce in America, and when we thought of e-commerce, we thought of Amazon. And then in China, they had Alibaba. It's quite similar. And then in China, you had Pinduoduo come out, and they just realized, oh my God, there's, it's actually only a small fraction of merchants are on Alibaba. That basically everybody is not on Alibaba. There's millions and millions and millions, and in China's case, maybe a billion people who are not on Alibaba, and they need to get online. So let's get them online, and focus on the tier 2 and 3 and 4 cities and the tier 2, 3 and 4 merchants, and just digitize them and get them online. And they did that, and it worked. And within 4 very short years, they surpassed Alibaba's mojo. And so I think that drove kind of the awareness of the opportunity in the US to get everybody who's not on, as big as Amazon is, there's a lot more people not on Amazon than are. And it's the question of how do you get them online? And I draw the comparison of pre-Facebook. There was people online. that were the early geeks of the web who built personal blogs, like Jeremiah, like some people in the room likely had a Typekit, or what were the pre-WordPress blog, and WordPress falls into this as well. WordPress, Blogger, but even before Matt made WordPress or Evan made Blogger, there was these blogging apps that you had to have your own typepad. Jeremiah's telling me there was a few. So you had to install it on a server, and you had to run the server and pay for your server. Some people kept their servers in their houses, or you use Rackspace down in Texas, and you had to pay them. It was not cheap, $300 a month, to run a little blog on the Rackspace, co-server. And it was not easy to figure out how to do. Just like e-commerce was not easy to figure out how to do Shopify. You had to use Magento. Very similar situation. And, there's a lot of friction in creating a Magento e-commerce store. Not for any amateur to do. And then now comes Shopify. Makes it here comes Facebook. In the age of blogging, everyone wants a page on the internet. There was a lot of friction to having your own blog on the internet. Only 2% of people figured out how to do it. They had blogs. They became bloggers. They thought of themselves as a community because they figured out how to do it. And then here comes Facebook, and essentially, let's give credit to Blogger first. Evan Williams made Blogger, made it actually really easy for a lot of people to get on, have their own blog. And then Facebook comes along and makes it easy enough for everybody. And I do mean everybody. And I mean the stupidest people you ever met are on Facebook. And no disrespect to Facebook, but that's a testament to how easy they made it, that even the stupidest person you ever met could figure out how to do it. So that's tremendously huge. And now the data reflects that, and revenue, Facebook's revenue represents what a huge opportunity that was, because Facebook's revenue is far bigger than Bloggers ever was, or all of those blogging platforms before Facebook. So now you see how the opportunity for Shopify is actually potentially bigger than Amazon. If you could get everybody, if everyone thinks, you know what, I can sell a lot of donuts at my donut shop on a street corner. And of course, to do that, I need to have a store on the corner and pay rent and signs and build a donut shop. Or what if I just built an e-commerce store, don't pay the rent at all, do everything through a web browser? And a lot of people are starting to do that. And it turns out that in this day and age, leveraging the tools that are available to target audiences specifically, in almost every case, you're better off having an e-commerce shop than a physical shop these days. There's a lot of risk in a physical shop. There's not a lot of potential downside risk in e-commerce shops. So, and huge potential upside if you do them correctly. And a lot of people are starting to realize that. When you add it all up, if Shopify can do to mom and pop merchants what Facebook did to your mom and pop and getting them online, it's a tremendous, huge opportunity. Now, Facebook already has all the mom and pops, physical. Your mom and dad are on Facebook, your aunt and uncle, and they can partner. And this was the true genius, I think, was Shopify partnering with Facebook, partnering with Google, partnering with YouTube, partnering with Pinterest, and all of these platforms, TikTok as well, all made these announcements, Instagram, that they're partnering with Shopify to make it easy to e-commerceify their platforms. And the timing couldn't have been better, because these platforms used to run off of as ad networks, and now that model's getting threatened due to the fact that Google and Apple are withholding the cookies and tracking and data that was necessary to power those ad networks, and now they're becoming e-commerceified due to a sort of partnership with Shopify. It's just a ridiculous. And then here's how else I think of it, to answer your question, because when YouTube came out, YouTube allowed you to publish video and take that video and put it on your website. And then there was a little YouTube logo in the corner, and some people clicked on that little YouTube logo in the corner, and it took them to youtube.com, when they then had the epiphany, holy shit, this is where everybody's videos are, and then eventually got in the habit of going to YouTube directly. I think the same thing will happen where you're going to buy stuff through Instagram in their partnership with Shopify, and then you'll somehow you see the powered by Shopify effect, and eventually people will go to Shopify like they do Amazon as a destination, and you'll realize everything's there all the time, and there you can search for shit. It's the difference between what we call passive discovery and active discovery, and what the difference is when you're on Instagram buying stuff. Today, you're likely to just be exposed to things passively that you weren't actively searching for. And you say, oh, those shoes look nice. Oh, okay, sure, I'll buy those. Click, I'll buy. That you didn't go into Instagram looking for shoes. And you do go to Amazon looking for shoes. You don't just scroll around Amazon passively, like you do Instagram. So there's a huge opportunity for Shopify once they convert people from passive shopping to active shopping, and they go there with intent to buy things, in the same way that you go to YouTube to look for things. You do both in YouTube. You do both passive and active.
Tyler, weren't we discussing that new that startup that's using Shopify to compete with Amazon? So they like you're saying, the little mom and pops, and he's just bringing all of those together into his platform. I thought we were discussing that a few weeks ago. I might have maybe read the article somewhere.
Yeah,
it's a brand new startup.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, there is, and it was a friend of mine in Santa Monica who I invested in his last startup. And what they're trying to do is think of Shopify as the layer that empowers, Instagram and TikTok and all those apps. You could build an even easier front end layer that isn't a social media app, and you can make it the world's easiest interface for making a store. And then it's powered by Shopify in the back end. And so it's the easiest way to make a Shopify store. It's even easier than doing it on Shopify.com. That's totally possible. Anyone can build an additional interface layer on top of Shopify, just as Facebook and Instagram and TikTok have. So you're going to have additional...
Well, I think, didn't they roll that out? So like this year, they were able to raise about $1.5 billion. Then they updated their entire back end code. So they invested quite a bit into the product itself, and I mean that they saw a subscription revenue rise, as well as their entire product itself. And they had a conference, a developer conference. I mean, because of all those things, they saw a steep incline, this year, just this year alone. It was like, I think like 100%, and at least 70 to 80% increase on their revenue.
Yeah. So let's jump back. We've now covered the top two headlines of the moment. Let's get into number 3. Number 3 is Twitter rolls out a web app and a web and app redesign. And in Twitter's case, they're really identical. Implementing its first proprietary font, which they call Chirp. It's its own font, which itself is in the headline today. Some people are claiming to get headaches from this new font, believe it or not. The high contrast black and white follow and unfollow buttons and more. And so far, people are not so thrilled about it. But that's often the case. That was also true of iOS. Gosh, what number was that? 9 or 10, when they changed all of their icons to be more cartoonish and less anthropomorphic, and people freaked out. And people do freak out, but they eventually adapt and evolve and enjoy it long term. They're not even good judges of their own, long term behaviors. But Twitter rolling out a whole new redesign. Curious what implications they may have longer term. If anyone's got any thoughts. Twitter itself says, not notice anything different today. We released a few changes to the way Twitter looks on the web and on our phone. While it might feel weird at first, these updates make us more accessible, unique, and focused on you and what you're talking about. Let's take a deeper look. And I'm tweeting.
Tyler,
yes.
I just saw this, and it's so bad because there are people who I'm not following, and the color, the way it's come across is that I'm following them already. So because it's already dark. So I think that's UX gone bad.
Mm-hmm.
And to people in the audience, when you're the design team, you've got a bunch of great designers that explore lots of different new things in the design, and sometimes they make it into the product, right? And so these types of blowbacks are kind of common across tech. I used to call it with the game team back in the day at Atari, unless you really do a good job of getting the user feedback and stuff, it can be kind of almost design masturbation by the team. I'm sure the Twitter people did lots of tests, so there's still going to be some people that aren't so comfortable with it. But this is part of the dynamics of sculpting your UX.
Yeah, I just tweeted out the article, and essentially the new font is kind of the biggest issue. They say in January, we revealed our new font Chirp, and it's ready for you to use today. All Western language text now aligns left, making it easier to read as you scroll. Non-Western languages remain unchanged. And we've updated our colors to be high contrast and a lot less blue, and change made to draw attention to the photos and videos you create and share. We're also rolling out new colors soon, giving a fresh palette. Our new buttons are high contrast too. Now the most important actions you take to stand out. Yes, you follow buttons look different, but they'll help you see what actions you've taken in at a glance. Finally, okay. So they're very happy with it, and they're very confident you will too. No doubt they A/B test this stuff before they do these big redesigns, as Apple does. They all do. And people gripe about it, but they have the data that shows long-term people actually like it more. So if you think you don't like it, you're wrong, because they've already tested it. You're going to like it in about 2 weeks. So the next big story is that Lionel Messi's new contract with Paris Saint-Germain includes a large number of crypto PSG fan tokens from Socios, which let holders vote on minor decisions. Argentine soccer star Lionel Messi's transfer to French club included a payment in cryptocurrency fan tokens. Any comment on that?
Yeah, that's been talking to a couple of ball players in Europe about this. FC Barcelona, the Dutch team, and also the French team. Basically, there is some tokens out there, and they are using it to sort of reward the fans, which is quite clever. And one of the tokens that's been doing well for quite some time is Chiliz, and the CHILLZ. And it's been around since 2017 and is being used by fans of FIFA and fans of the teams. And its utility is that it's giving fans the opportunity for bonuses and benefits and rewards that relate to their team or their player. And it's actually a really nice way to sort of bring community together when there's so much, power in the footballing outfits in Europe. The UEFA and FIFA are super big in Europe, and the fans, as you know, with Chelsea and Manchester, they're pretty crazy when it comes to their football.
Yeah, I'm just realizing, if I'm not mistaken, Socios, it's called Socios Gaming. If I'm just confirming here, it is fan influence. Yeah, they're from Stockholm, and I had them here in Clubhouse, the CEO, during my monthly pitch meetings. It was the first one I did here in Clubhouse about, 6 months ago, where it was all about crypto. And it was, and maybe Amay, you might remember that one because it was all about blockchain.
Actually, I do remember that.
Yeah. And
a lot of these gaming companies, you know what, Tyler, a lot of these gaming companies are actually linking in. And you know why? Because remember back in college, like betting is such a big deal. Betting on football, college ball, that's a massive big deal, especially when you got those diehard fans. It is a big deal when you talk about people in their sport. You see it with the U.S. in fantasy football and like how they really take it really personally, like it's a very interesting experience.
Yeah. I'm just wanting to I'm 99.999% sure. I want to be 1,000% sure because I don't want to sound stupid on the record. Yeah, Chiliz, CEO of Chiliz and Socios. That was it.
CHILLZ.
That's right.
It's a token that
100% correct.
That's been around since 2000. Actually, some of my Dutch folks and the Dutch player that
I remember him coming on and pitching it, and from his office. And he was super confident. He's like, we're kicking ass. We're working hard. Like we're getting the big teams on board and blah, 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 blah. And we're making a fan token for the big football teams.
Yeah.
And here it is. And Messi is getting big into their coin.
Yeah. And, the thing is that there's also another one called So Rare that is also coming up. So Rare is the trading cards. So SoRare.com. SoRare.com is the ones that have their trading cards. So really, it's a SoRare game, and it's global fantasy football. That's why I said they're kind of they're getting the players. They got 154 clubs. And if you've been in Sweden, you understand the craze of soccer or football in Europe.
Yeah.
It's the same as we have in the United States towards crazy American football. It's the same thing that you start to see when it comes to, FC Barcelona, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Manchester, Tottenham, Spurs. So you see a lot of it, and it is trusted by a lot of the players because they're doing it by the whole ecosystem. And to point about the token, it's giving them the opportunity to vote on elements of their club.
Yes, that's what reminded me, because I remember that was kind of the point of his pitch that really I thought was super compelling was that point where basically now the fans become kind of stakeholders and they're able to vote, and of course the club can decide what they let the fans vote on. But now they have something they can vote on, and I was like, that's kind of freaking cool. Yeah, and
it does. If you look at draft, if you just look at the concept of a draft, right, Tyler? Look at the concept of the process of a draft to get a new team player, right? If you could imagine if that drama could be cut down to like just people voting on who comes in based on like the sentiment of the community, I mean, that would be pretty badass because you see people watching players across different teams. And if it comes like, hey, I want that player, I want that goalie on our team, that could also give the club owners the opportunity to say, okay, well, how many people really feel this player could do justice to our team? And let's vote on it. And then when they vote on it, they could actually make a pretty decent buy by actually taking into consideration the community that watches the games. And you know how people like to sit in their couch and sort of give pointers to the teams behind the TV. So, you never know. Sometimes people are knowledgeable to seeing historic plays. You see this a lot with ice hockey, right? With the Swedes in ice hockey, like Lundqvist. They just have like certain plays that they're really good at, and they start to sort of get known for them. And then that usually is part of what makes them really a successful player is that they just know how to navigate all their plays real well, and they get really good at it. But then if it comes to trading them to another team or the possibility of him leaving and wanting more money, they could take votes on that stuff.
The votes are going to be the Trojan horse. As you start to get engagement like that, you're going to be creating a bunch of virtual metagaming, experience that they're going to monetize like nuts. It's going to be, this whole, it's kind of like social commerce meets the sports industry.
Gambling.
No. So the history of fantasy football was a really metrics rich, game waiting to pop, right? So we talk about user experience in virtual, but now how digital twintertainment can start to really provide whole new experiences within the real world that are experienced virtually. It's gonna be freaking cool.
I just found the video of this guy's pitch, so you can watch it on YouTube in this pitch event that I did with them. And it also had, if you're really into crypto, it also had Bill Barheit from Abra, and now what's his other new big crypto startup he's doing? He's doing one of the exchanges.
Tyler, are these NFTs or regular tokens?
Tokens.
I think it's tokens. So I'm curious, are these tokens are they able to trade on the exchange?
Yes,
I believe so. Yeah. Okay.
So I think this is kind of like direct gambling. I mean, as in they can buy directly. They don't have to go through broker anymore for gambling, for soccer gambling. I think David Chan will have a take on this. If I tried to ping him by Southline. Anyway,
Chili's. What's it called?
Hey Tyler.
Yes.
Did you also not that the trading question came up, but did you also see that Coinbase smashes a revenue record of $2 billion in the second quarter
No.
from transactions, subscriptions, and services? Wow, that's it's pretty heavy.
What's the coin football? So I'm just tweeting out the video of the interview I did with this guy when he pitched his football coin that is now becoming a big BFD, as we say, a big fucking deal. Congrats to him. Yeah, it was a really impressive pitch, and I forwarded the video right to the moment where his pitch starts. I just tweeted it to the Tech News Twitter account, and you can see that because we have a YouTube account.
Is he on Clubhouse?
He came into Clubhouse. I could ping him back again. His name was Alex Dreyfus. Let me see if I can ping him in here. Yeah, good point. Alex Dreyfus.
I just know that soccer gambling is quite a big thing. There are a lot of online sites to do that, right? Although some of them are illegal, but if they can, well, I don't know how they frame it, but it's definitely possible for them to next time just do gambling directly.
Yeah, it's not showing when I put in his name in the search bar. It's not showing his name for some reason. So, well, I'll try and invite him in to come in tomorrow. Anyway, so next to the next big headline is UK's CMA, which is the Competition Markets Authority, which sounds like the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, says it has provisionally found that Facebook's Giphy acquisition, which is the startup that allows you to make cute little GIFs when you communicate with your friends in Facebook Messenger, like Will Ferrell little clips, with like making funny faces, that the Giphy acquisition could negatively impact competition, such as by denying competitors access to GIFs. Are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit. Come on. That's a little bit much. Would anyone love to debate me on this one? They're worried about Facebook having a monopoly on the creation of GIFs. Are you kidding me?
By virtue of their power, but I understand, but you're downplaying these poor little GIF companies, right? But by virtue of the power, once they pick somebody, this is the embrace and extend strategy, maybe not exactly that strategy, but this is how, antitrust kind of, is it fair for them to step into that domain? So it's GIFs are, you can have whatever opinion you want about GIFs, but within the GIF developer space, there's going to be a big SI for the other GIF developers, right?
Yeah. So let's just read a little bit.
And Tyler, typically the CMA and the others, they will only work on this if somebody else filed a complaint. So there must be some developer who went to Facebook and said, "Hey, how about using my GIFs?" And they said, "Nope, we've got our own. Sorry, you guys have to pay," or something to that effect. So they took it to the commission.
Somebody is feeling hurt and cried, to the authorities. I agree. That must be. That's what. Go ahead.
It
Michael.
would seem they were looking the GIF horse in the mouth.
Oh Jesus! So the previously completed merger of social media giant Facebook and Giphy, the largest provider of GIFs and meme sharing services, has run into a potential roadblock from the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA. Following an investigation, the CMA has provisionally found that Facebook's 2020 takeover of Giphy would negatively impact competition between social media platforms. The deal was announced in May last year and valued at $400 million. If the CMA competition concerns are ultimately confirmed, it would require Facebook to unwind the deal and sell off Giphy in its entirety. Retrospective exam. Can you imagine how pissed that founder is right now? Oh my God. He's already spent the money. He's already bought a yacht. Well, I don't know if he cares because he sold it to Facebook. It's Facebook's problem now. It's their company.
Bob.
Go say again, Chris.
Cancel the hoverboard
If the CMA competition concerns are ultimately confirmed, it would require them to unwind the deal. Retrospective examinations of mergers and takeovers are rare, but not unheard of in the UK. That sounds almost vindictive. That sounds like someone's got a bone to pick with Facebook to force them to sell this Giphy app. There's lots of other Giphy apps. Lots of them. Plenty. There's plenty of competitors in this. There's no shortage of places to make cute little GIFs. Right?
Europe is trying to check Facebook, though, right? So they're just doing this little thing to perhaps kind of tell everybody, hey, let's try and corner this tiger a little bit more, everybody, or contain them.
So here's what it says: the CMAs provisionally found that Facebook's ownership of Giphy could lead it to deny other platforms access to its GIFs. The body also notes that Facebook could change terms of access. So what? It doesn't stop you from making nearly any GIF you could ever imagine.
For example, it's not making GIFs. I think, I'm sorry, Taylor. Hi. It's not making GIFs. I think it's the fact that it's connected to, like if you make a story on Instagram,
yep,
you use Giphy. If you make a story on Snapchat, you use Giphy. If you make a story, I think, or even a GIF on Twitter, you also use Giphy. So you basically use it in everything. So I think they say that, they can basically ban it from Twitter and Snapchat and the others.
But then Twitter would partner with one of their competitors immediately if they ever pulled Giphy out of Twitter or Snapchat or revoked their access to using Giphy as the kind of GIF generation engine, for lack of a better word. There's alternatives. That's my point, is what would be the real harm in that? Like a weekend of work for the developer to pipe in the competitor to Giphy? It says,
I think it's also the amount of it. There's so many of them. Like everyone has people have made big businesses just creating like GIFs for so they can upload it and use it in marketing and things like that. I'm one of them. So
yeah,
but maybe you're right. There's probably more services, and if not, it's a great opportunity to make one.
Yeah, it says, for example, Facebook could require Giphy customers such as TikTok, Twitter, and Snapchat to provide more user data in order to access Giphy GIFs. Such actions could increase Facebook's market power, which is already significant, the CMA said in a statement. This is purely hypothetical.
No, that's the standard of how they operate. So
true,
if there's behavioral data in how you're expressing yourself through your GIFs, that is a new opportunity for Facebook to do what they continue to do. And maybe that's really the unspoken context of what they're trying to contain Facebook.
Okay, hang on. Stuart McIntosh, chair of the Independent Inquiry Group carrying out the investigation, said millions of people share GIFs every day with their friends, family, and colleagues, and this number continues to grow. Giphy's takeover could see Facebook withdrawing GIFs from competing platforms. No. Facebook could revoke Twitter and Snapchat and TikTok and everybody access to the Giphy engine. Right? But and then it said that it could see Facebook withdrawing GIFs from competing platforms or requiring more user data in order to access them. Right. Facebook could say one of two things. We are hereby cutting you off from Giphy. We bought it. It's ours. We're keeping it exclusive for ourselves. That they could do that. Or they could say, if you want to continue using Giphy, we'll make an exception if you give us some more data. Right. It could do both of those things. In either case, Twitter and Snapchat and TikTok have other options in competitors to Giphy, identical offerings on the market that they could then tap into almost instantly. So what's the real problem? I think what the CMA, the consumer whatever, are they not aware that there's instant competitor replacements to Giphy? And if Facebook were to do that, Twitter would not feel like, oh shit, now we have no options. There's no more GIFs on the internet. Only Facebook's going to have GIF now? That's what they're implying. That if Facebook did that, there would be no expression of GIFs on Twitter and Snapchat on TikTok. Are you kidding me? This would hardly be an impediment to the creation of GIFs on those other platforms.
on the continuum of tools used to develop content in the context of a content creator, if you know, Emma, if you could chime in on here, perhaps, if you had on one end Unity, and on the other end Giphy, you know, what kind of issue does this create for the content creators? I think is one perspective that needs to be fleshed out, because imagine somebody buying Photoshop, right, or a publisher buying Photoshop back in the day when it was like the monster tool. But Unity, I think, contemporarily is an interesting example in that context to consider.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Giphy, hold on. Here's what I want to do. Giphy is an app called Giphy, and I'm doing a little Google search for Giphy versus blank and letting Google explain the competitors. So you have Giphy versus Tenor versus Giphy Cat versus IMGUR versus GIF Keyboard versus there's several competitors to Giphy instantly. And the fact that you can create GIFs manually, which lots of people do all the time,
So,
without
the question, sure,
without
some of
any
them suck,
without
right?
any app at all. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'll close the mic. Emma, if you could chime in, is Giphy worth the fight?
Well, I guess what Giphy has is the user base, right? So, I mean, I do know about some of them, but I honestly never heard anyone use them, or maybe like to upload an image. But I think, you know, Giphy. I don't know their numbers now, but I'm guessing it's huge numbers, right? And the others, they do the same thing maybe, but they don't have the user base.
So I just did a
Tyler.
Google, hold on. I just did a Google search for Giphy alternatives. The 7 best Giphy alternatives are, according to Google, those are Google's own words, not mine. The 7 best Giphy alternatives are Tenor, GIF Maker, Imgur GIF and Meme Generator, Easy GIF Editor, GIFbin GIF Library and Editor, IMG Play GIF Maker, GIFs.com GIF Library and Meme Generator, GiphyCat GIF Editor and Meme Generator. There's an abundance of alternatives if Facebook was to remove Giphy from those platforms. The argument...
So, Tyler?
Yes.
Question. I actually wanted to get your opinion. Is it really about the generator of GIFs, or is it about the rights approved GIF images that they have so Facebook won't get sued?
Meaning the intellectual property around the GIFs?
Correct.
I don't know that they're... Is that... Are we worried
I'm
that
talking about license approved content that
right?
Facebook doesn't want to get sued for, which is happening a lot.
But intellectual property doesn't apply to parodies, and nearly every GIF is a parody of some kind.
Perfect, Tyler. That was it.
No, I would say almost a big part of Giphy is the stickers. So I don't know how long, but yeah, for a couple of years now, you have the stickers on Instagram, and they are used to for marketing. For example, I make stickers for my if I do a collab or something, since I do digital art on stream, and a sticker is like great marketing because everyone want to use them. So I think I don't even know if GIFs is the biggest category on Giphy. I'm pretty sure it's getting to be the stickers right now.
Okay, so
Stickers.
Tyler, this is
Also
Francis.
IP.
I see that there are 4 patents awarded to Giphy, so maybe that's the case.
Okay, but here's another point. GIFs intentionally are designed generally to become memes. Memes, has it? I mean, yes, somebody has for example, like the girl burning down the house and she's smiling at the camera because that's an image. That image is a copyright, but never in the history of the internet has anybody tried to enforce their GIF viral meme intellectual property to stop other people from making their viral GIF viral. That would defeat the whole point of creating a viral GIF. It's like, please don't copy my viral GIF. What? Say what? Do you want it to be viral or not? Yes, of course I do. Well, then you can't tell people to stop using it.
So I don't get why they're kind of acting this way about it. My gifts have been used over 1 million times, and I very specifically target, like, when I'm creating them, I very specifically target the emotions I see evicted through other memes on Twitter and on Instagram and things like that. And the whole point of them is to fucking spread like
Right.
wildfires, not to try and own them.
Yeah, any court was going to be like, sir, you intentionally wanted people to copy this content that you're claiming intellectual property of. Did you or did you not expect people to, copy this? Did you make it clear when you made the original post, I'm enforcing my rights, please contact me if you would like to replicate my funny image that I made of, somebody falling into a pool? Well,
isn't it the same with YouTube though, and other content? Because it's basically content creators on Giphy, right? That they make their own stickers.
Yes, but if you make a parody of, if somebody puts up a YouTube video, they have the intellectual property of that video. If I make a parody of it, where I put over some funny font and a cat little sticker on top of your pool video, I'm making a parody of your video. That is within the
Constitutionally protected.
Absolutely, yeah. I actually agree with that one. The parodies, but I was more thinking about like the just swipe up, or just I'm live on Twitch, or the stickers when you don't actually use that you can see on Instagram, for example, everywhere. Those usually are linked to an artist. You have to have like either an artist account, I think, or a brand account to make them.
Okay, so
Tyler, hang
ahead,
on. So
Vinay.
Tyler, this is Vinay. I just checked with my daughter, who's an intellectual property lawyer, and she said GIFs and memes are being copyrighted because they're being created for clients, for example. Yeah, and they are being copyrighted. Even I could create a GIF and put it out there, but I put my source or a stamp on it, just like a artist's code on it, and they are copyrighted to me.
Okay.
Yeah, people are creating NFTs for that, so that it remains with them, and it's also going to go viral.
Right. So let me just read what the CMA themselves are saying. It says, as the guy said, while our investigation has shown serious competition concerns, these are provisional, Macintosh added. We will now consult on our findings before completing our review. Should we conclude that the merger is detrimental to the market and social media users, we will take the necessary actions to make sure people are protected. As if they don't have 50 different apps to make GIFs from, by the way, which I clearly read them to you. We disagree. And then here's another quote. We disagree with the CMA's preliminary findings, which we do not believe to be supported by the evidence, a Facebook spokesperson told Variety. As we have demonstrated, this merger is in the best interest of people and businesses in the UK and around the world who use Giphy and our services. We will continue to work with the CMA to address the misconception that the deal harms competition. Giphy currently has no employees, revenues, or assets in the UK, meaning that the CMA has no jurisdiction over the deal. So who gives a shit? Facebook argued that in its submission to the investigation, Facebook also argued that Giphy's paid alignment services do not constitute display advertising under the CMA's own marketing definition. Facebook also contends that Giphy could be considered a potential competitor in advertising. Then, by the same logic, thousands of other companies would have to be considered actual or potential competitors to Facebook as well. The merger is also being reviewed by other competition authorities in the UK. These are in touch with the CMA. The CMA is also open to responses from interested parties to its provisional findings by September 2nd and its notice, blah, blah, blah.
So the birth of Giphies as a copyrightable content form and its implications to advertising revenue exposure competitively against Facebook.
This is a weird one. It seems to me that what instigated this investigation is not something smells fishy here, because this has been around for a long time. Why is this happening now?
So in the dance space, I'm talking to an entrepreneur in the dance space who's quite frustrated that as people create new dance moves and put them on TikTok, they just float out there, they get copied, and there's no means of monetizing it. So, if people are copywriting GIFs, any kind of animated anything, then this is kind of opening the door for the fact that these new content creators can get some level of protection.
Let's see here. Someone tweeted, so obviously it's just a summary of provisional findings, but some of it is faintly ridiculous. This is from Giphy's own pre-merger internal documents, as it is quote unquote possible that they might not be the most objective judges of the unique value of GIFs in advertising. Potential competition often proves too much. If Facebook faces potential competition from Giphy, then it must also face potential or actual competition from TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, etc., which should make the loss of Giphy's potential competition pretty trivial. This stood out to me in the CMA provisional findings to block the Facebook-Giphy merger. It describes massive services like Snapchat and TikTok as Facebook's rivals, but is concerned about the loss of potential display in competition from Giphy, which has no display ad business at all. Facebook says the findings lack evidence this merger is the best interest and only a full spinoff will do, the CMA says. Okay, next big headline. Thousands of marginalized streamers implore Twitch to counter hate raids, which I don't know what a hate raid is in Twitch. Somebody needs to fill me in here. Where groups of malicious users fill a streamer's chat with targeted abuse. During an August 6th broadcast, the Twitch streamer called Wreck-It Raven, who is black and uses they them pronouns, who is black and uses they them pronouns, emotionally described a series of traumatic real life experiences that informed who they are today. In response, viewers in chat told Raven that they were loved. This made what happened next especially hurtful. About 20 minutes later, Raven's chat was suddenly flooded by dozens of users spamming the same message, which read in part, "This channel now belongs to the KKK." It was the second time this has happened in just 1 week. Thousands of streamers, many from marginalized backgrounds, have spent the past few days imploring Twitch to counter so-called hate raids, in which groups of malicious users employ dummy accounts and bots to fill a streamer's chat with targeted abuse under the banner of hashtag #TwitchDoBetter, a Twitter hashtag started by Wreck-It Raven on Monday. Streamers and their fans have drawn attention to the issue plaguing the live streaming platform, ranging from harassment to an unavoidable pay split, unfavorable pay split. For scores of burned out creators, the hashtag represents a boiling point, and some, tired of waiting for Twitch, have taken matters into their own hands. Earlier this year, for example, Twitch users went so far as to create a server on the chat platform Discord dedicated to fighting hate raids. "I'm just tired of it," said Wreck-It Raven, who, along with other streamers interviewed for this story, declined to share their full name for fear of harassment. "I'm tired of feeling like I'm not allowed to exist based on the circumstances that are out of my control, and other people do too." So the headline again, and from the Washington Post: marginalized streamers beg Twitch to do better in wake of hate raids and poor pay.
I can answer, but
please do.
First off, that has been a thing on Twitch for as long as I can remember. I've been on Twitch for almost 8 years, and it's basically called a hate raid. Before, a lot of male streamers especially started doing, because it became a popular thing, especially to hate on certain women that dressed in a certain way and so on, and they started sending these hate raids. But if I remember correctly, Twitch actually added that to their rules, so it's not even it's not even allowed to do that anymore on Twitch. So I don't even but I'm guessing this is maybe made by because if it's made by streamer, then they're going to be instantly banned nowadays, not before. But I'm guessing this is just the botnets, because there's so many bots on Twitch. So what people do, they apparently go to, I know there's Chinese companies or something where they can pay $1 or $2 or something like that to do these hate raids or other really nasty things. But what's weird is that, and I also got botted, actually. I got the record. I have the record of getting botted, but follow botted the most of all streamers in 1 day. But thank God I got Twitch to remove it, because I got I became the biggest streamer on Twitch or something like that for like, I mean, I think I got botted with millions of people, but then Twitch removed it. So
so
that is a very common thing, and usually they don't remove it. Usually it's like they kind of seem to want it there.
So Twitch has responded now, where they said on Twitter publicly, we've seen a lot of conversations about botting and hate raids and other forms of harassment targeting marginalized creators. You're asking us to do better, and we know we need to do more to address these issues. That includes an open and ongoing dialogue about creator safety. Thank you to everyone who shared these difficult experiences. We are able to identify a vulnerability in our proactive filters and have rolled out an update to close this gap and better detect hate speech in chat. We'll keep updating this to address emerging issues. We're launching channel-level ban evasion detection and account verification improvements. Told you. Account verification. They're going to force people to do identity verification. So that will stop this, because once you connect your state ID to your social media account or your Twitch account, you're probably not going to do a whole lot of hate speech, and you'll be banned permanently at the first instance, and you might even be sued. So this will stop all this bad behavior very quickly.
How would that work, though? In Sweden, we can use like BankID and stuff like that.
Yeah, BankID, in Sweden. In America, what they're going to do, and this is already very well starting to happen, Canada and Australia is now going to require every social media platform. Korea has been doing it for a decade. Australia just said they're going to do it, where they're going to require you to show your state ID to your camera and match it, do your face scanning. And there are third-party solutions provided by Stripe. So in any, even you as a very small app who don't have a team to build that, you just take a line of code from Stripe, plug it into your login process, and it will require any new account to do a live stream with their face on their camera, with their state ID next to their face, and other triple identity verifications. So everyone becomes identified with their state ID, with their face, with other forms of ID, like a credit card, and now you're approved. So it's Stripe can enable any app to automate that without the app needing to do much of anything, just like Stripe enables you to allow payments in your app. And they call it Stripe Identity. And by the way, Clubhouse has partnered with Stripe Identity already as one of the 4 launching partners of Stripe Identity. And then there's a Swedish company that was just in the headlines a week ago that's a competitor offering exactly the same thing, offering an identity verification service like BankID, but for countries that don't have BankID, using their state IDs and their face as kind of bio identification, authentication to any app who wants to add it. And here you have Twitch saying, we're working to launch these tools as soon. We're launching channel level ban evasion detection and account verification improvements later this year.
Can I ask something? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry. No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like I've been talking too much today, but I just wanted to ask, because I think I'm like it's like a double-edged sword for me, because on one hand, I love the fact that I can't get people making hundreds of new accounts, because that happens and you get hundreds of comments daily. But I also worry a bit about the tracking and how that will impact everyone. What do you think about that, Tyler?
Yeah, well, I've been predicting that this identity verification is coming, and now you hear Twitch even implying that they have it coming themselves. As is the case with every technology, benefits and detriments or dystopian use cases that we need to consider very carefully.
So 6 years ago, I helped a cybersecurity startup get into Electronic Arts to help them solve a big problem with bot account creation and all the havoc it was wreaking. And they're part of the wall that people were using was the CAPTCHA stuff, right? And the Google CAPTCHA is notoriously just ineffective. So I mean, it's a startup that was really cool. PayPal gave strategic investment, and they're a great solution, but they're kind of getting gobbled up in this kind of this window that's been shrinking because of all the political pressure to do the identity stuff you're describing. But there is technically a pretty good solution prior to going full blast. Hey, scan your driver's license, but the window is shrinking.
Yeah. And then the next big headline here is interview with Facebook ad executive Graham Mudd on Facebook's plans to enhance privacy in its ads regulation, Apple's ad tracking prompts, Google's FLoC new kind of cookie alternative, and more. A very meaningful pivot is underway inside the world's largest social network. Facebook's massive business was built on its ability to track users across the internet. And now they claim they're having a very meaningful pivot around privacy and etc. And that's why they're doing an interview with Facebook's Graham Mudd, the ad executive. And so I will tweet that to the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW for those who want to read that interview with Facebook's Graham Mudd. They're kind of ad guru. So the next big story is it's called a company called Taldesk, which provides cloud-based call center software. Raised a whole bunch of money. Who cares? Palantir does its Q2 revenue reports up 49% year over year. Not too bad. What did the market expect? Sales from governments rose 66% year over year. The next quarter revenue is forecasted to rise 33% year over year. So there we are. Next up, DoorDash recently held talks to buy Instacart for between $40 billion and $50 billion, but the talks fell apart due to potential antitrust scrutiny. Boy, are these tech companies all just getting cracked down on left and right now in 2021. Last year, that would have gone through no problem. But every tech partnership, merger, acquisition is just getting really scrutinized these days.
I'm kind of annoyed by it, to be honest. I mean, that sounds like a great match. And
Doesn't it?
Wouldn't mind. Yeah, I wouldn't mind the convenience of that. Like, I get that they're trying to crack down on monopolies, but if no one else was presenting a, solution that it's annoying to me. I get it. I understand it. But at the same time, fuck, they're killing a lot of really great partnerships.
Yeah. So, and by the way, so was the partnership between Uber Eats. We had the headline yesterday that Uber's partnership, not investment, not acquisition, just partnership with GoPuff. Have you even heard of GoPuff? Do you give a fuck about GoPuff? And they're cracking. It's not an acquisition. They're not buying the company. It's not even an investment. It's just we're going to work together.
Ridiculous.
They're cracking down on startups working together due to antitrust? What?
They literally just want to look like they're doing something because everyone else is pissed off at them. So, by creating wedge issues, they feel like they can maybe stand out from the crowd. It's really pathetic.
So here's where I'm going to actually play devil's advocate here in their defense, which is this, and I'm the one, I'm kind of predicting this, and this is where it fits in. I can play devil's advocate for them because how many competitors does DoorDash have in the U.S.? There's a few. Uber Eats, Instacart, DoorDash, Grubhub was the next one in my mind. You could say Amazon to a degree. Who else is doing delivery of stuff? Everyone's getting in a delivery. Anyway, there will be consolidation. It's incredibly strong competition between these delivery apps. And the bigger picture is that eventually, because of the consolidation, you're going to end up with a handful of these delivery companies. And right now, there's the apps you order from. And even those ordering apps may or may not actually be doing the delivery. In the case of Instacart, they are. In the case of DoorDash, they are. We have these there's 10 different ones in Europe. There's 10 different ones in Asia. Jay on stage works at one of the biggest ones maybe the biggest one in Asia, which is Grab. And this is all kind of weird. Anyway, so the ordering company, you click order, you give them your money, they take your money, they spend your money to acquire the goods that you wanted, and they deliver it to you. And they determine where that money gets spent. In the future, they will start acquiring, rather than go to the supermarket or 7-Eleven on your behalf, they will build a warehouse, order in all the goods into their own warehouse. The robots will do all the picking, and they'll distribute a robot to send you the stuff. So that will shorten the time down to 10 minutes eventually. And then because of that, the 7-Eleven loses, the supermarkets lose, every mom and pop business online loses, because whoever receives the order and the money has the power, with the exception of whoever delivers the goods to your front door. If DoorDash or Instacart, and it's already known, there was in the headlines recently that Instacart is now building their own supermarkets on the outside of town, robotic supermarkets, to have the robots pick the stuff out. And this is a highly optimized fulfillment center, which is like a supermarket, but when you there's no humans allowed inside of it. It's just a robot. I don't know if you've seen these robotic factories. They are mind-blowing. But when you optimize a fulfillment center for robots and not humans, it's essentially a whole bunch of boxes on the floor, and the robots run on top of them in a track, and they run around at 10 times the speed of light. It's like truly mind-blowing. And they fulfill an order in seconds, because it's a track of these square boxes in a big grid. It's almost like light cycles from Tron, if you've ever saw and they're just zooming all over the floor in a grid, picking up things at the speed of light, and then they throw it into a bag, and it goes to an automated car, and it goes to your house. So
the one I've seen, Tyler, is where the floor is the boxes.
That's what I mean.
And that one's even mind-boggling too.
Yeah, that's what it is. And if you've not seen this, it'll blow your mind, and you'll understand why it's the inevitable future, because it's so much more efficient than a human going into a supermarket, which would take minutes. Imagine a floor. The floor is a grid. The robots are rolling over this grid at way faster than a human can even sprint in like a chessboard. Imagine a huge chessboard, and the chessboard is a grid that the robots can roll on in either axis, X or Y, at the speed of light. And the chess boxes, the floor, the chess squares are also boxes full of stuff. And the robot hovers over a box, pulls shit out of the box, goes over to the next box, pulls out something else. And you basically have an endless scaling chessboard of boxes. And you can have thousands of boxes. The chessboard gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the robots know what's in each box. And they roll over to one box, pick up one of the items out of it, rolls over to the next box, picks up something out of it, goes off the chessboard, puts all the, pieces into a bag, and off it goes. And it can fulfill your order in seconds. Really seconds. And so
I clipped a video of that for you.
Thanks. Thank you. It's mind-blowing if you've not seen it. So it's because they can fulfill your order in a few seconds rather than several minutes. It cuts down. It saves you, 5 to 10 minutes off of your order time, your delivery time. That's why they can do 10-minute delivery. And you're thinking, how do they do that? It's going to take you 5 minutes to go into the supermarket and pick the shit out and exit. They can save you that 5 minutes in this, robot optimized fulfillment center of a supermarket where there's no humans involved. And not to mention, it's way cheaper for them long term. So anyway, that's what's coming. Instagram, it's already announced that Instagram's doing that at the detriment of the supermarkets, because they used to go into the supermarkets with humans and pull everything off the shelves, and that's wildly unoptimized. The robotic supermarket is wildly optimized. So that's what's coming. Instagram's going to replace and circumvent the supermarkets, and of course the supermarkets are screaming, that's unfair. So I think that's what's stopping this merger, is all of the supermarkets, all of the big retailers see the writing on the wall that these apps that you're ordering from used to walk into their stores and buy their products and then bring it to you. And now we don't need the stores and the supermarkets and the 7-Elevens anymore. Thank you very much. We've got that in our robotic fulfillment center. Thank you. So now you're just going to get all of, the supermarkets and the retailers and the 7-Elevens and the AMPMs and all of them unifying together to tell Washington, D.C., make it stop. Make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. These ordering apps have way too much power. And indeed they do, with the one notable exception, which is, do they do the delivery themselves or not? If they do the delivery themselves, forget it. They have complete control from the moment you order to the moment it arrives at your door. If they use a third party to do the delivery, like a partnership with Uber Eats, which some of them do, like GoPuff wants to do, that's the partnership. GoPuff takes your order, GoPuff fulfills the order, Uber Eats delivers the order, because Uber Eats is already delivering shit all around town anyways. They want more utilization of their delivery system, so they partner with GoPuff to bring in more utilization of their delivery system. They have more shit to deliver. They want full utilization of their delivery. They want to be delivering 50 things all the time in every single vehicle. That's full utilization of all of their vehicles all the time. So, and they can use AIs to optimize the delivery schedule of all of those deliveries. So they want to do those partnerships. The problem with that is GoPuff, what happens when Uber Eats delivers GoPuff's order, and then on the box it says, thank you for your order. Here's a 50% off discount code next time if you use Uber Eats directly rather than GoPuff. And now GoPuff is screwed, because they're going to get undercut and circumvented by their partnership with whoever's doing the delivery. And that's when you start to realize, whoever's doing the delivery has the opportunity to circumvent whoever you're doing the order from. But whoever's doing the order is going to circumvent whoever's the retailer or the seller or the wholesaler. So it's a crazy game. Amazon's not taking any chances. They're doing all of it themselves. Google is doing delivery. Tesla is doing autonomous delivery networks. Amazon's doing autonomous delivery networks. Google, VW, believe it or not, is doing autonomous delivery networks. And Uber was doing it. And Uber sold their autonomous delivery network technology to some other company for $500 million, which I imagine will come back to bite them in the ass. But it's a crazy game. But I can understand why somebody's telling the government, again, just like Giphy, this was not the government's own. You think the government gives a shit about GIFs on social media platforms? Somebody's telling
Teamsters.
them, huh?
Teamsters.
Who in the government is thinking at their desk, you know what we got to do? What about these GIFs? We got to start focusing on these GIFs. Fuck COVID. Fuck climate change. Let's worry about the GIFs. Who's thinking about the GIFs?
You have, but you have Fang making money on. I mean, look at Roblox and Minecraft, right? I mean, these companies are making money without paying the people that are providing some of the core value. That's kind of the challenge, and they've been sleeping at the wheel, like you're saying. They haven't done squat for 20 something years on antitrust. Look at Amazon, right? Like, you just came out of your mouth very, very clearly. They can do whatever they want, and that's the problem. So it's a start, hopefully, of at least some more thoughtfulness. They're going to make some mistakes for sure, Tyler, but it's just, we need to turn the page in terms of this giant chapter of hacking and the lack of enforcement of antitrust and things like that. So I don't know. I kind of welcome it, but they need to get their shit straight. I agree with that part of it for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I'm playing the devil's advocate and making their best case for them, which is this shit's important. Like, these companies are going to be putting themselves in a really powerful position that I'm not sure people realize. But apparently they are, because they're already prohibiting DoorDash from buying Instacart. Which, does that mean they understand how powerful these companies potentially will be? I think so, but I don't think it was their own realization. I think someone's whispering in their ear, which are the ones who are going to get circumvented. In the same way that the streaming platforms of Netflix and Disney Plus are disrupting the Hollywood system, and Hollywood's whispering in the ears of the regulators to be like, hey, shit, we're fucked. Movie theaters are going to die because of Netflix and our Hollywood system of movie studios is going to get screwed. And the supermarkets are realizing the same. Whoever gets the user and their money has the power. And DoorDash and Instagram continue to acquire more power, and bye-bye supermarkets. Hello, fulfillment centers, robotic fulfillment centers on the outside of town. So anyway, that's my rant on that. But we'll see how that all shakes out. It's really interesting stuff. Google says it's banned. This is brand new. This is a breaking headline. Google says it banned location data firm Safegraph in early June, meaning apps using Safeguard location SDK had to remove it. Safegraph sells smartphone location data to essentially anyone. Google banned the company in June. Oh, let's see. This sounds juicy. This sounds kind of juicy. Google has banned Safegraph for location data. The news signals Google's continued crackdown on location data firms who sometimes, in violation of Google's policies, pay app developers to include their data harvesting code and then sell the collection data to companies or government agencies. Yeah, so this is what's happening. Let me unpack this. Let's read a little bit more and see if they unpack it for you. They were willing to sell extremely fine-grained data, and anyone with a credit card can start buying it. Zach Edwards, a researcher who has closely followed the supply chain of various sources of data, told Motherboard in an email last year. Safeguard collected at least some of its location data by having app developers embed the company's code or SDK into their own apps. Those apps would then track the physical location of their users, which Safeguard would repackage and then sell to other parties. Google confirmed to Motherboard. It told app developers in early June they had 7 days to remove the Safegraph SDK from their apps. If they didn't do so, Google told Motherboard the apps may force enforcement. This meant removal from the Play Store itself. Beyond its own data, Safegraph also offers customers a chance to buy related data sets from other providers, blah, blah, blah. Last year, Motherboard brought a small set of data from Safegraph for around $200 to test how easy it was to obtain and to verify the sort of information it collected, including a list of points of interest for the area we bought data for and other information such as specific next point of interest visitors they went to. For example, one line showed the people who went to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints then visited a list of particular convenience stores. In my opinion, Safegraph data is way beyond any safe thresholds around anonymity, and academics and journalists have repeatedly found how it was possible to de-anonymize specific people in sets of location data. In his own test, Edwards pointed to a search result on Safegraph's portal that showed data related to a specific small doctor's clinic, demonstrating how finely Safegraph's data can target particular locations. Last year, the New York Times used Safegraph data to create maps that showed where people were spending their time after coronavirus lockdowns were loosened. It attempted to estimate how crowded various restaurants, gyms, and coffee shops were and how dangerous they could be. At the time, Motherboard asked the Times why it felt comfortable using Safegraph data, considering that its own reporters earlier showed how it could be used to violate people's privacy. The New York Times spokesperson said, "We're confident that our use of this data across news and opinion was responsible. The data used in the two articles is aggregated and did not include individual location data, blah, blah, blah. On Safegraph was one of the many Okay, so the issue here is this company would approach app developers. You have apps on your phone that you don't think are tracking your location, like some cute little game, some little alarm clock app that you may have installed, maybe a flashlight app that you installed, right? And you're thinking, hey, it's a free app. Love it. Thank you for the free alarm clock app. Thank you for the free flash little tic-tac-toe app, little Sudoku app, or what have you, right? You no doubt have a dozen of these apps on your phone, correct? Yes? Right. Everyone does. Now, it was a free app, and you're thinking, well, that was nice of that person to make that free app, right? No strings attached. What's the catch? The problem is they have your geo data, and they partnered with this company called Safegraph. And Safegraph tells that app, that little tic-tac-toe app, that little flashlight app, you know what? You want to make some money? We'll do this. Just connect to our little pipe, and we're going to suck out the location data of that all those users using your cute little app. and we're going to pay you for that. And now you're making money from your little free TikTok app, your little, flashlight app. We're gonna pull out the user's geographic data, and we're gonna sell that geographic data to other apps who want it, like marketers who want to know everyone who went to the Starbucks at this particular Starbucks on this particular day. I want to send them an ad, and this can be used to enhance ad networks. Essentially, this is really valuable data, this location data. And so any app who's tracking location data can essentially sell that to this third party called Safegraph, and Safegraph then sells it to other parties. And it's a huge geo marketplace of geodata. And I want to know everyone who went to this particular location at this particular time. That's very valuable, super valuable. And they give examples of how valuable that data can be. And it can even be de-anonymized. So you think it's anonymous data. Not really, as these New York Times articles showed. So it's Google's banning this practice. So Google bans location data firm, which was funded by Saudi intelligence agency. So the Saudi intelligence agency, the Saudi version of the FBI or a CIA, had funded this geodata company. Because it was acting.
Hey, Tyler, geodata is actually really important. This is actually a big issue because it can be used.
That's what I'm saying.
People, and people should turn it off on their phones. Like a lot of these are on and people just leave them on. And it's like you should actually disable all that geo stuff, except for when you turn it on when you actually need it, because all these apps are tracking you and they're used both across, as you said, all those ad networks. They want to see how effective advertising is when they deliver to you on the spot, who actually follows through. And then there's the tracking feature, and that's a huge one for the security folks, is that's a really big deal.
So here's an example. Earlier this month, the Wall Street Journal reported that a similar company, there's a whole lot of these, by the way, that are paying for your geodata, and they're paying any app out there who has geodata, will pay you a lot of money. And you're a flashlight app, and you're like, well, shit, I got 5 million users using my flashlight app. I could trick them into giving me their geodata, and they do. And now they sell that geodata to lots of people are willing. They can sell it multiple times. They sell it to there's a lot of companies willing to pay for that data, like the one I just named, Safegraph. Here's another one, X-Mode, and there's 10 more. So you can sell that data 10 different times. So X-Mode, the Wall Street Journal reported that a similar company called X-Mode, which Google banned after Motherboard revealed it collected information from a Muslim prayer app and has U.S. military contractors among its customers. Oh, lovely. So they're tracking Muslims in the U.S.
Tyler,
yes.
But didn't that thing became illegal a few years ago with Facebook selling it to a third party for a lot of apps getting our data, pictures, and other things from Facebook, and then it became a big issue, and they were doing it illegal. I thought that it was banned for almost all of the apps because. To me nowadays, that's why I'm noticing, because every single day I'm getting somebody else that I didn't subscribe sending me a lot of crap. I'm subscribing every day, and I'm just trying to figure out how they got my information. Mm-hmm. So I guess this is how they are doing it.
It depends on what they're tracking. And so the apps are going to say, if it says in their privacy policy, we collect geodata, they'll disclose broadly, and no one reads those privacy policies in terms of use. But that's what it'll say. And then, as you're noting, they can use this. They can combine across, there's so much public data about people out there, and you've got these services. This is one that's collecting and selling geodata, but
right.
these services can take data. They can take
Correct.
that along with other data from other apps, cross, and as you said, they can. If it's a Muslim
de-anonymize.
app,
I'll tell you right now what's happening in the case of this Muslim prayer app that was selling the geodata of its users. That data no doubt had a signifier of some kind, a reference point, a cookie like thing, which you can then go to a directory service and look up those IDs. It's like an Excel spreadsheet of the geodata, and it has an identifier ID, and then there's a separate ID reference database that does tell you the identities of the people with those ID numbers. So even though the muzzle map isn't giving you an actual first name, last name, credit card number of the people, there are services who provide that very simply. And we've read those headlines in this room. And there's many of them. So you take this data that you bought, this geodata, which doesn't have the name, just has an identifier number. And then you go to this. It's almost like the old school phone books where, you could look up somebody's phone number in a phone book if you knew their first name and last name. Same deal. You have the identifier, and it tells you. You put in the identifier. It tells. Who does this? Our friends in Stockholm called Truecaller. Truecaller is an app. You put in the phone number. It'll tell you whose phone that is. It's the world's biggest, largest database of phone numbers and the people who own those phone numbers. If you and if you have the pro version of the app, you could you could type in somebody's name and it will tell you their phone number, because what it did, it was sucking in everybody's phone number of everybody's phones, all of their phone books, all of them. And so I went to dinner one time with my friend Sean, who was the founder of Tinder. His girlfriend at the time was Michael Dell's daughter, Amanda Dell. And she was like, no way, you can't find my dad's phone number. And then we're like, here, look it up in Truecaller. And she typed in she knew her dad's phone number. Sure enough, there it was. She's like, holy shit, nobody has my dad's phone number. I was like, well, yeah, somebody does. Somebody who's using Truecaller on their phone had your dad's phone number in their phone book. And that's why he's now in the database for anyone to look up. And she's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have Steve Jobs' phone number, because she knew Steve Jobs, because Michael Dell and Steve Jobs were actually very good friends. Sure enough, she looks it up. Holy shit, they have Steve Jobs' phone number in this app. Like, there you go. So these databases exist where if you know the name, you can get the phone number. If you know the phone number, you can get the name. If you have this identifier, you can get the first name, last name, the details of this individual. So the U.S. military contractor who paid for this Muslim prayer app geodata, no doubt used that data to go to a reference cross-check database to get the identities of all of these Muslims using this Muslim prayer app.
Tyler, can I ask, isn't that legal in Sweden? I mean, now when they change rules if someone requests to have their information removed, they have to remove it, even in sites like Ratsit and similar.
Right. Yeah, the answer is no. It's clearly very gray area of legality.
Well, there's enforcement, right? So, thanks to Europeans for starting to establish it as policy, but the enforcement's challenging.
Yeah. So there's that one.
What if I sue them? Okay, if I only give
you would have to
one app.
Yes, you would have to show some kind of damages. Is the short answer.
Well, but why would they share my data if I only allow them and then they sold it to a third party?
Right.
Because those apps all say they're selling it. They
tell you when you said I agree.
Yeah, you've got to read your terms of use and your privacy policies, because that's the thing, is that most of these apps take that right and they sell it. And Tyler, it's not like the government has their own apps that are collecting from all of these, as you said, and cross-checking them. I mean, if you remember, like back in the beginning, it was where people's public records, there's so much information out there about people that is in public records, the house you own, maybe the car you bought from loans, et cetera. And there's plenty of, aggregators of that. Now they're doing it online with your digital profile, which is what we've been talking about. So a lot of them have the rights to do that. Like, you haven't turned off your geo tracking, or you haven't turned off, your shopping history or something else. And so they're just aggregating that. It happens all the time.
Okay. So the next big headline is a Mumbai-based company called Eruditus, which makes top-tier university courses available globally online. That's a Indian edtech company. You know what that means. That's a whole lot of money, as that's now the big new number one edtech market on the planet, now that China's edtech is no longer investable. That's no longer a market at all. So Mumbai-based Eruditus, which makes top-tier university courses available globally, raises $650 million, led by SoftBank. There it is. SoftBank was the investor in a lot of the Chinese edtech. They got, like everyone, burnt and shown the exit door. And now Indian edtech is an incredibly smart place to put a whole lot of money. And there it is, SoftBank investing at a $3.2 billion valuation with Excel. Two of the best.
Tyler.
Yes.
You're going to hear about 4 unicorns next week.
Yep.
Mark my predictions.
Yep. No, I don't. I have no reason to doubt that. So the next big headline is Bloomberg says they have sources that Atlanta-based MailChimp explores strategic options, including a sale at a $10 billion valuation. Sources say MailChimp had $300 million in EBITDA earnings in 2020, and that's a lot of that was from me, by the way. Holy shit, is MailChimp expensive?
No, that's a lot. That's a good EBITDA.
Yeah. Marketing, they charge a shit ton. I'm paying like $200 a month for my MailChimp email list. It's ridiculous. And who was that? Someone with the mic open. Aslak. So the next headline is Microsoft unveils improvement to Microsoft Office, Teams, and Outlook apps to work better on Samsung foldables that just were announced yesterday, allowing multiple instances of the same app. Big whoop. Next one. CNBC says Snapchat creators say they are leaving Snapchat's Spotlight feature as payments have dried up after June 1st, and some moving to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. That's interesting. Creators say they're leaving Snapchat after payments on the service have dried up. Let's see what this is all about. And Taylor Lorenz has gone on Twitter to say, as payments from Snap have slowed, creators are hopping back to Instagram and YouTube, where payments are still coming. It's all about the money now. That creator economy. And I said they're going to go wherever they get paid. I mean, that's just kind of common sense. So if it's a competitive marketplace now for these creators. Whoever's willing to pay the creators more. YouTube's got a huge head start on this because Google is an ad network. So they've applied their ad network to YouTube. And Google can send endless amounts of traffic to YouTube. And that's where so it's who's got the most eyeballs can get the most ad dollars. Whoever's got the most ad dollars can share those ad dollars with the creators. So whoever's got the most eyeballs is going to pay the creators the most, and the creators are going to go wherever they get paid the most. Google's got the most eyeballs. Google's going to win. YouTube's going to win this battle for the creators eventually. That's how this is shaping up. Although TikTok got a lot of eyeballs, but they don't have the robust ad network that Google was built on fundamentally from day one. So it's going to get really, really interesting here. I would be shorting Snapchat right about now. Anyone? Let's do this. We're going to test out our brand new voice assistant here in Club Deck. Let's do this. This is going to be wild. Y'all watch this. What is Snap stock price?
What is Snap stock price? 75.86.
75.86. Snap stock. Let's see what the stock is doing right this very minute. It's down barely at all today. Mark my words, it's going to go down over the next couple weeks if creators are leaving Snapchat, because that's where the money is. It says creators say they're leaving Snapchat Spotlight feature after payments on the service have dried up. Instead, they're heading to rival social networks like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Yep. Social media companies have been making aggressive moves to attract more content from users by offering them direct payments, which in turn allows companies to draw more advertising revenue. Yep. Spotlight creators say there was a method to how Snap paid them prior to June 1, but now there seems to be no rhyme or reason as to who gets paid. And then there's a story where they talk about creators and how much they made, and now they're not making that much, and now they're moving, and they're going to try and go where they think they can make the most money. It makes perfect sense. So you can read all about this one from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW, which is miraculously short for Tech News Around the World. So the next big story is the This one, the attacker who stole the $611 million from Poly Network has now returned over $342 million. So he's about halfway there, and he's returning about 100 million every 6 hours. And so this is turning out to be a truly wild story, because they're calling him an attacker. And then they did there was an interview done with the attacker who stole the $611 million from this Poly network. And they said, "Why did you do this?" And he says, "Because I found a vulnerability, a trap door, which made it possible for anyone to steal this money. You have a hole in your vault, and I found it. And if I had notified your security guards that this hole existed, there was so much money in the vault, about $1 billion, that if I told any one of your security guards, whoever received my correspondence might not bring it to the attention of the proper authorities and might themselves tell a friend that there's a hole in the vault and come in and steal the money. So rather than risk that happening, because that money belongs to millions of users, I took the money, put it in a safe place, told you that your vault is compromised, and I'm now returning the money back into your vault, safe and sound for all of those users. Because I trust myself more than the person who is going to receive my notification that there's a hole in the vault."
I'm going to dub he Robin Hodel.
Tyler, this is what I was sharing about people being in a space of community with crypto, and also the fact that he found an exploit. And in essence, what he's saying is, hey, I found an exploit. If I would have sent a message to someone, they might not have taken care of it as quickly. They might have also taken advantage of it. And instead of doing that, I wanted to present to you your exploit. And in return, I'm returning the funds slowly so that you're aware to fix your exploit as the funds are being returned. And in essence, that's what I was saying about it being there being a bounty for that. He's come forward as well, and he's making it quite public. If I were Poly Network, I would be rewarding him as a bounty, because he did exploit something in the contracts, and that's actually what happens when you audit. But that's why I said I would be looking at the audit firm that audited that contract and said, what the hell were they doing? Were they sleeping on the job? Because clearly this is a major exchange, and it connects with oncology, it connects with Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum. It connects with a couple of blockchains, I think 4 more or 3 more. And that's just really poor audit, where you would want to audit something like that in your smart contract, especially if you're managing that much money on your exchange. So what he was doing, in my opinion, was a bit fair, because clearly if he went to someone else, who knows what they would have done. But he's obviously shown he's returned 50% of it. And, hopefully they'll fix the exploit.
So my understanding is the exploit is because they aren't as random as they claim to be. It's not an auditing issue. It's how they're setting up the keys for the private wallets. And so it's an exchange that allows you to transfer crypto from one platform to another. And he was able to back out and figure out the private key and generate these trades. So that's what happened. I'm going to call it bogus. I mean, there are people who say that these are not random and that they've warned this company before. Maybe he's doing it, but why would he steal that much to show them that they have an exploit? I mean, I find this interesting.
Yeah, based on his logic, he would take as much as was at risk of being taken. Like, he would empty the vault to the full degree that he could to protect those funds.
Yeah, Tyler, it's what I also mentioned this morning in the first session about looking at the fact that these contracts do have to be audited regardless, because they are interacting contracts, because smart contracts are snippets of code, and they do connect in with sidechains, and that is part of how they connect. So when you look at that context, I would be no matter what, anything that's going on there, the keys are something specific to the one holding it. But that's a very interesting observation about keys, because what I said to you earlier, Tyler, about who is the blockchain name service, that it was China's CBDC. and it's more centralized than it is decentralized. So Jennifer's point about keys is quite interesting, because then it would be something similar to like Chassis from the paid network, who was the only one holding his keys, and that's how his network got exploited from Thailand. And he immediately, a lot of DeFi projects rallied to help him. And sure enough, they got all the money back. They shut down the paid network original token. They shut it down. I think it took them about 10 days to 2 weeks to make sure everything was aligned. And then they came back stronger. And Chassis came live on YouTube and was saying, hey, look, we were exploited. That was my bad. I kept only one wallet, et cetera, which is not the protocol to have, because then that means one wallet could be compromised. So my only challenge is if it's who are the wallets that were compromised, right? Who are those keys? Who do they belong to? And in my observation and research, it goes down into who has majority of those wallets of that 600 million. And in the research that I found from my folks, it connects back to the CBDC and the blockchain name service, which is the CBDC of China.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next big headline is a blog post made today by Li Jin on their own blog, which is getting attention of some very notable geeks like Om Malik, who I love, at True Ventures, and Om's been around from the beginning, and just a brilliant and lovely man. And this post, the headline of the blog post is a look at how centralized social media platforms, that's the big social networks, have made a creator and gig economies equally corrosive for workers, and what can be done to remedy the issue. The creator economy is becoming the gig economy, is their point, but there's still time to turn things around. And essentially pointing out, as Om Malik says in his tweet about the blog post, why something is rotten in the creator economy. This new blog post is a good read on the context of the creator economy hype and how big platforms are going to kill the golden goose and turn everyone into, we're going to have this essentially a repeat of the same issues that we have now with the gig economy, where gig economy folks are feeling like, they want to unionize, they're not being treated fairly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're being commoditized, essentially, and they're going to be replaced and autonomized. They're going to be replaced by bots. The same could happen in the quote-unquote creator economy, where you're going to become very commoditized. You're a cog in the machine, which will eventually be replaced by automated bots, GPT-4. We've actually talked about this here, where you could have virtual creators in the creator economy who are optimized to sell stuff and be influencers, virtual influencers. These already exist. In fact, Sony Records right now has a talent search for virtual talent instead of real musician talent to get a record deal with Sony Records. They want virtual talent to get a record deal with Sony Records. And so this is going to get really interesting really quickly. In the next 5 years, you could have virtual talent that's better than human talent at selling stuff in the creator economy and writing compelling blog posts and creating compelling videos and compelling tweets and Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, the creator economy could very much become like the gig economy.
Tyler, in 5 years, people would be writing screenplays and movie scripts using these tools. We won't be needing screenplay writers and movie writers, because what's going to happen is that there would be so much of possibility of mixing up scripts and context and results coming out of these AI or maybe GPT, some contextualized GPT, that they won't need writers anymore.
So here's kind of the bolded. They've thankfully Lee bolded the kind of main points in her blog post, which I will tweet out right now for those who actually want to read it. I highly encourage people reading it just on the recommendation of Om Malik alone. But she says she wrote nearly 2 years ago a post called the Passion Economy and the Future of Work. And that's what we used to call it back then, was the passion economy. You're going to do whatever your passion is. You're going to be able to monetize your passion. It was called the Passion Economy, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And now we're calling it the creator economy. And And so nearly 2 years ago, I published The Passion Economy and the Future of Work, which laid out a vision for online work that was informed by the reaction to the challenges of the gig economy. And the passion economy was envisioned as an evolution and alternative to the gig economy mode of online work. The appeal and promise of the passion economy are already readily apparent. Creators can reach a global audience with just an internet connection and earn a living with only 1,000 true fans. Some creators today are earning millions of dollars per year through engaging in brand deals, selling digital content, creating courses, and more. But just as the gig economy mode of work brought about negative consequences, strong parallels are emerging between the gig economy and the creator economy, rooted in the commoditization of work and erosion of worker leverage. Yep, that's true. For online creators today, a handful of large social media platforms serve as gatekeepers for finding and connecting with audiences. While these platforms provide valuable services to creators, including the tools for content creation, hosting, and discovery, there's an immense power imbalance between platforms and creators who are reliant on platforms for distribution. Great point. And numerous startups are attempting to help creators set up their standalone owned proprietary online properties online, earn more from fewer, truer fans, and lessen their dependence on social media platforms. But unless we radically change the foundation of the creator economy, how creators find and connect to a community in the first place, these solutions are incremental at best and don't create a fundamental unlock for the issues plaguing the current creator economy. Only by understanding how the creator economy is evolving and its risks can we be more thoughtful in moving forward. And then it talks about today, with the shift to platform-mediated work, capital is evolving once more to ownership of data that enables productivity. Gig economy platforms lock-in isn't predicated on controlling physical capital or manufacturing equipment. Instead, their capital is data that they gather and control locations of every network participant and record of all events and interactions, reputation and feedback scores, and market clearing prices, all of which strengthens their network's effects. Similarly, the creator economy is marked by the rise and small number of firms that have accumulated capital and effectively control the means of production and distribution. While online platforms have unlocked the traditional gatekeepers of the creative world, they also serve as the access choke points of new type of capital. The dominant centralized creator platforms own the data. Have I not said this countless times that it's about the data? The social graph and the end user relationships, as I keep saying about the delivery and the ordering apps, whoever ends the end user relationship, all of which creators need in order to access audiences. And this is a great point. In the creator economy, the platform is who you're going to and who you're paying the money to. Who are you really paying the money to in the creator economy? The creator directly to their bank account from your bank account? Even then it's through banks. But are you paying it to the platform that then holds it in a wallet for the creator? You're paying it to the platform. The platform has the power. And who are you discovering who are you showing your interest to? The creator or the platform? Generally it's the platform. Are you more loyal to YouTube as the platform, or to the creators in YouTube? Probably YouTube. And this is the essential point, that the platforms can chew up and spit out the creators at will.
Tyler, this is a point that a lot of creators don't understand, is that the platform owns the relationship, not the creator.
Right.
And so that's why they don't have the direction. And I mean, I can't believe people still keep asking this, but anyways, the platform owns it. So if you're deplatformed, you're done. You have no way of, you're done. So the advice to people is to go, multi-platform, so that you have another connection.
Yes.
And as you said,
yeah, Tyler.
Yes.
Tyler, this is Vinay. Hey. But one of the first steps, though, is to get the creators onto your platform, and that's where they're enticing the creators with money, right? When Spotify launched Green Room, they created a creator fund to bring in a whole bunch of people. I know somebody who got paid a lot of money, and to Jennifer's point, they went and signed a document which they didn't read clearly, which said that content could be there only exclusively on Spotify or in Green Room. Right, so it's bring them in, hook them in, and then chew them out.
Yeah, so in the before the rise of the distribution points, content was king was a popular phrase back in the 90s, right? Content's king until the distribution platforms emerge. Then distribution becomes king, and then content does not reemerge as king again until there's more disruption in the platforms and distribution, or you become a Disney. But Jennifer brought up a really key point about the common content strategy is to be multi-platform. You want it to be Facebook plus, not just in one walled garden, which is another term that you're describing.
Yeah, but David, a lot of creators are not that smart, right? They don't read the writing because I know specifically the green room example. You had an option of signing an exclusive. Signing the get a lot of money for being exclusive or get hardly no money for not being exclusive. And they said, hey, let me take my money now. I don't need to do the hard work to get the audience. Spotify will take care of it for me. But it doesn't work that way. And then Spotify owns the audience. So the problem is a lot of creators are not really smart from a business perspective.
It's a sophistication that's going to grow over time, but you're right. I mean, they're not business people. I mean, in the game space, we've been dealing with this types of emerging platforms all the time. But you're spot on in terms of sophistication. But I think now is the time. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to increase in sophistication. Training them and teaching them those to be the content creators of this new types of content with regards to these business principles. So we got to keep an eye on that as well. It's going to be emerging for sure.
Well, a TikTok influencer can't be influencer on LinkedIn or Twitter, so the influencers are also like quite tailored or towards that platform. They can't do well on other platforms.
Why can't they? I'm both on TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, here, and LinkedIn.
Yeah, the article brings up some really interesting points about how creators can create soft unions, for example, which happened in Vine in 2015. 20 of the top Vine creators met with the app's management team, and these are their power users essentially. And they met with Vine's management team to propose product and monetization changes, and Vine said no, and they left, and Vine died as a result. And Vine could have been TikTok, essentially, had that not happened. And Twitter owned Vine, so Twitter could have been TikTok.
Another dynamic I think that's going to emerge is, not all content is created equal. A passive piece of art is unique, but it's different than something that's interactive. And then as you start to get up the continuum of anything that's interactive, then you get into game mechanics, and you start to get a whole new different types of engagement opportunity or possibility with the content. So, I mean, some of these platforms, if they could just allow any kind of little mechanics, any kind of game mechanic, it's really going to open up a lot in terms of the reach and the engagement for the quote-unquote content.
Okay, next big headline here is a company called Honor unveils Magic 3 series, its first post-Huawei smartphones, all with Google services. I've never heard of Honor. Anyone heard of Honor? So it's just a smartphone. The next is a Utah-based company called TaxBit, which provides cryptocurrency tax and accounting services, raises $130 million at a $1.3 billion valuation from Tiger Global, as usual. The next one is a company called Verse Innovation, parent of news aggregator Daily Hunt, raises $450 million. U.S. grocery delivery startup GoPuff says it has acquired British competitor Dija, which was founded in December of 2020 and has raised $20 million seed to expand into Europe. U.S. grocery delivery firm GoPuff is acquiring British competitor Dija to expand into Europe. GoPuff is not effing around. They are growing like crazy. TikTok details upcoming protections for users aged 13 to 17, including turning in-app messages off by default and changes the notifications. So we can now add TikTok to the list of Apple, who has policies about youth, and Instagram, and Facebook, and Google, and YouTube. All of them in the same week. What are the odds of this, everybody? What is going on?
So, Tyler,
Yes?
I brought this up. I brought this up the other night, but what they really need to do is expand COPPA up to age 18, because the issue is COPPA only protects children under 13.
and you're not an adult in the United States till you're 18. So there's this gray area where you're a tween and you're obviously still a minor, but they're not treating you like a child online. So they're kind of counting on industry to come up with it. But in reality, what happens to the next TikTok if they don't have this policy, right? So I think the government's going to have to step in at some point.
But clearly, there's somebody pushing on these social networks from the government side in their conversations. These apps don't self-impose these things ever. They never have. And yet they're all doing it simultaneously in the same 72-hour window. Think about that fantastic coincidence. Clearly, there's some bigger force involved that's having conversations with all of these apps about complying or face the wrath of, getting cracked down on, which is likely to happen anyways. But, you can score points. You can, if you just start to comply a little bit with a few of our requests here. Oh, that's nice. You complied with that. Okay, here's our next request. And it will never end. They're going to push the identity verification next. Now that all of these apps have complied with these cute little, in TikTok's case, what they're doing is, to be clear, it's about the notifications. New TikTok teen protections include no notifications after 9 p.m. until, what age is it? TikTok will limit push notifications to teens. Younger teens, 13 to 15, won't receive push notifications after 9 p.m. And 16 to 17-year-olds won't receive push notifications after 10 p.m. Well, that's going to limit use of TikTok. Why would they do that? This is the opposite of everything they have ever done since the company ever began. Yet again, they have been optimized endlessly to get more and more views. They all do this all the time forever. That's all they've ever done and ever would do. Why are they doing something completely antithetical to their modus operandi of existence when they've never done it ever before, yet they're all doing it simultaneously in the same 72-hour window? Someone above is pushing this on them. They're complying because they feel like there's some reason they're complying. The point is, now that they've complied on something like this, there will be endless new requests to comply. And the next big one, now that they've been tested and complied, is identity verification for all users, period, with state IDs. It's coming. Mark my words. It's an easy, at this point, the prediction becomes easier and easier. So the next big headline is London-based Aforza, which builds tools on top of Salesforce and Google Cloud to help sell customer packaged goods, raises $22 million. Baidu, which is China's Google, just did their Q2 revenue up 20% year over year. That's actually quite big for a company of that size. After Alibaba fired an employee accused of rape, over 6,000 workers signed a letter urging it to ban sexual remarks and games in ice-breaking and business events. Okay. I figured that would be a given. Foxconn did their quarterly report up 30% year over year. Tulip, which builds cloud-based software tools for factory workers, raises $100 million. Chicago-based Hologram, which has a custom SIM, raised a bunch of money. It's a really interesting company, but it'd take a while to explain. It's basically a SIM card for IoT devices like dog collars, but it allows the devices like smart parking meters to switch the provider of the data seamlessly. Which, wouldn't that be nice if your cell phone could do that? So you don't care which provider you're using, like AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon or Orange or 3 Telecom or whatever. It would just magically switch between all of them based on whoever has the best data. Sign me up for that plan. An EdTech company raised $35 million. China-based autonomous driving startup Pony AI suspends their U.S. IPO plans following Chinese government crackdown. And then I learned something recently. I said it in the other meeting when we met 10 hours ago, that why China cracked down on Didi, the Uber of China, when it did the US IPO. Turns out because Didi has cameras in all of their cars, which they put in place because they had a rape where a Didi driver raped somebody. So then they put in cameras with microphones in all the cars. And turns out that all the Chinese government, CCP folks, ride around in Didis all the time, having important conversations in the back seat. that were all recorded by those cameras and microphones. And now you know why the Chinese government freaked out and wanted to get all of Didi's data before they formally IPO'd in the US, and any chance of the US getting any of that data, which is probably very critical to national security. So now we know what happened, although not one single US press outlet has published that. So the other interesting headlines at the moment: research created how Sweden's policy for putting a computer in every home and early concurrent investment in internet connectivity helped birth Spotify, Skype, Klarna, and others, and made Sweden the Silicon Valley of Europe. That was a fun headline yesterday by Reuters. Okay, so those are the boring headlines that all of your coworkers and cousins have been discussing and reading on the interwebs. But we, as the geeks of the internet, actually know where all the really cool, interesting headlines are hiding. And we've been sharing them with each other on the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. And now we're going to reveal them to you, listening patiently here in Clubhouse, like this one. So somebody DM'd this one, and I've got hundreds of the best headlines. People have shared 1,000 headlines to me in the past 24 hours, and here are the best of the most interesting ones, including this one, which Dr. Donish also just shared. Some of the people, we got really a lot of smart geeks that follow us here in the audience, and they're sharing these all on Twitter by including our little hashtag TNATW, and thank you to everyone who's sharing all these tweets. Here are the most interesting tweets that people are sharing. Wendy's to open 700 ghost kitchens by 2025, which is genius. It's not any ordinary ghost kitchens. And this is the right move forward if you're Wendy's. You close down your restaurants and open ghost kitchens, because in the future, people are going to be ordering from apps for 5-minute, 10-minute delivery. People are not going to get in their cars anymore and go drive to Wendy's. They're just going to press a button, bring me my goddamn Wendy's. That's what's going to happen. So stop opening restaurants. And in fact, close your restaurants. You're paying a lot of rent for those restaurants. Close them and open up ghost kitchens. And this is genius, what Wendy's has done. They're not opening in a factory on the outside of town paying rent. They're building the restaurants inside of trailers, which have wheels that hook up to the back of trucks that can be moved around. Why is that genius? Because now you don't have to pay rent, which is one of your biggest expenses as a restaurant. And even better, when you have this ghost kitchen where people are ordering from their little app, Bring Me Hamburger Now, you see the data of where everyone's ordering from, and then you move the trailer to the closest location you can to where the orders are coming from to lower the delivery time to the people ordering. It's genius. It's absolutely fucking genius. Why?
And Tyler, you're from SoCal, so when that In-N-Out truck rolls by, man, you're like, okay, I'm following it.
How? I'm kicking myself that I didn't think of this. The cloud kitchens are going to be on wheels. They're going to be trailers, and they won't have. And the extra genius part of it is a semi-truck trailer is a box with wheels on it. It doesn't even have an engine. It's crazy. It's crazy cheap to make. There's no engine. If we need to move it, we bring a truck, we move it. We plop it down. It hangs out there all day rent-free. We need to move it at night, park it on the outside of town. No big deal. No one's ordering anyways past 2 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And to be in compliance with the laws, you wouldn't even restock the trailer. You would just replace the trailer daily.
No, so the way it works is actually what they're doing on the back end. This is Danish. I was just going to say that what they're doing on the back end is Reef, which is what's powering all of this on the back end. They actually have giant warehouses where they're stocking everything. And so it's just-in-time delivery. And they're handling all the logistics, all of the back end for not just Wendy's, but for everybody that's building these ghost kitchens. And with Wendy's, like Tyler said, what's in the article and what's also, being discussed is they actually have the plan to move it, Tyler. So what they're saying is, hey, you know how you like that Wendy's breakfast close to where you work? Well, maybe in the morning you'll have the trailer at the Wendy's the breakfast by where all the offices are. And maybe at night by all the bars, you'll have another location. Or maybe the same location at night. You're actually matching supply with demand based on location. It's
genius.
It's genius.
Here's
McDonald's
another.
has a rule. I'm sorry, and I'll shut up after this. McDonald's has a rule. You're on the right side of the road on a freeway on-ramp in the morning, period. Every McDonald's pretty much follows that rule.
Here's another thought. The health and safety inspector can't find the damn trailer. He's going to have to drive around looking for it.
But Vinay, that rule's covered because in Los Angeles they have you post your route so that they can come find you wherever you're at.
Oh, can I tell you guys something also really interesting? They are now, so their government affairs team at Reef is probably one of the most sophisticated government affairs team you'll ever. And what I mean by government affairs team is it's a very fancy way of saying their lobbying group. And if you guys Google Miami Reef law, they have a new law in the city of Miami that allows them to be able to pump these out within 2 weeks. So you can actually get these. You don't have to go through something called a temporary use permit. You don't have to do anything with the city. The city has specifically made this. And then you start Googling Reef trailer laws, and you suddenly start seeing all over the US, every city is working closely with Reef to convert their dormant parking real estate into more active, dynamic real estate. And they really are building this platform called Proximity as a Service. It's very, very exciting, very interesting stuff.
The other cool part is at the end of the day, the trailer's brought back to the distribution hub to restock for the next day based on the data of what they know is going to be ordered. It's so genius.
And who's behind them? SoftBank. They've raised $2 billion in 2 years. Reef has only been around for 4 years at this point, 3.5, 4 years, and they've already raised $2 billion. They essentially, what they did, which is so fascinating, is they went and they bought Impark Health and all of these other parking lot operators, and they said, hey, we're going to operate all these parking lots, but over time, we're going to convert the revenue per square foot of these parking lots, and we're going to up that by doing more stuff in each parking space. And so let's say that, they're also managing another aspect of this, which is what is truly flex parking and what is actual utilization parking. So sometimes they'll say, hey, Wendy's, we'll give you, because you do pay by the time period that you do stay on. So it's not that it's rent free. It's just you're not paying rent for time you're not using. And so, so they can say, hey, Wendy's, instead of you being in this parking lot where you usually are, if you're 2 blocks down, because we literally own all the parking spaces in America, if you're 2 blocks down where people can still get a hold of you, don't worry. We'll still, because again, it's primarily deliveries, right? So if you're 2 blocks down, we'll give it to you for 30 cents on the dollar, because today there's a conference going on at this building. And so we want to make sure that people can actually get access to parking here, because the parking prices will be higher. They can actually, in flex time, change parking prices based on events. Like Tyler was saying, the data-driven parking and dynamic pricing of parking spaces is part of their strategy as well. It's very, very, again, genius in some ways.
Yeah. So there's a new headline that just came in that, according to internal documents that an Amazon team member has shared to the press, Amazon plans to monitor keyboard strokes and mouse movements of their team members to stop hackers from accessing consumer data, because you can identify somebody by their keystroke signatures. And if they notice an unusual keystroke signature on somebody's computer, they know it's a hacker and not the person who should be on that computer. Quite interesting. So the next really interesting headline is, someone shared this one, that Norway wants data centers to locate there and be more sustainable too. Norwegian data centers will be sustainable digital power centers, promises minister. To which I can tell you, good luck with that, Norway, because I work very directly with the team in Sweden who's brought all of the data centers to Sweden, including Facebook, Apple, and Amazon. And you've got none of them Norway, who recently got Google went to Denmark, if I recall correctly, but everyone else has come to my team in Sweden. And
hey, Tyler,
yes,
I follow the data center industry a lot, and governments all over the world are now competing very dramatically and with lots of benefits for companies to come and set up data centers there. Except in Ireland, in Galway, the government brought it in, but the local council is now saying we don't want the data center there. But in India, there are 3 states fighting for about $5 billion worth of investment in data centers. They're offering free land, free subsidized electricity, but the data center infrastructure market is going through the roof.
Yeah. Speaking of India, there's a headline right now. India's digital policies are putting U.S. tech in a bind. Policymakers in New Delhi believe U.S. tech platforms need India more than India needs them. I told you so. Did I not say this? Did I not say exactly this? David?
The writing's kind of on the wall when we're the ones calling them for IT support, right?
But have I not been saying exactly this? That India is a power play. India won. The world's watching. Now America realizes, oh shit, we can be the boss of the tech companies? Look what India just did to all of our big tech companies. Told them to shape up or get out. And they all said, you got it, boss. You the boss, Modi. You the man, Modi. And America went, holy shit.
There was an article about how India is the first successful case study of data sovereignty imposition. I mean, not just tech, even MasterCard, right?
Hold on. Here's the first sentence of this article. India has a message for U.S. tech firms. Play by our rules or risk losing out on our 750 million internet users. Is that not nearly verbatim what I've been screaming for about a month now?
It's such a great opportunity for India's opposition parties. They are running out of funds. If they just reach out to these players, Facebook, big tech, that okay, if we come, we're going to be more supportive. I think they'll get reasonable amount of fund. I don't know how are they doing it, but yeah, it has a good political angle.
Armesh, they have to figure out how to use the social media first.
So far, that bet is paying off. U.S. tech executives have reluctantly accepted most of these policy changes while continuing to invest billions in the Indian market. The promise of a market of 1.3 billion potential users remains too alluring to abandon. As I've nearly said verbatim, I don't know, 25 times in the past 6 weeks. Well, it all started with Twitter, and what's actually started with WhatsApp and then Twitter, and there it is. Now we know. It's in print. Weeks later, Atlantic Council, you did good. You're right. That is what's happening, and now the rest of the world knows. And then,
so Tyler, there's a lag indicator between news in tech news around the world and mainstream media by about 6 weeks. I've noticed.
This is starting to become a bit of a process where we talk about things that it just is not being discussed. We make the connections. We connect the dots. 4 weeks or so later, there's a headline kind of confirming everything we're past that story. We've moved on to other stories. We made our conclusion and prediction, and then here comes the headline 4 weeks later from someone else. I have to thank Ben Hayes, who found the video. If you want to see, this is an important video that he's sharing, and it's the one that I said about robots inside of a warehouse where thousands of robots zoom around on like a chessboard grid, pulling out orders 10 times faster than any human ever could. Even an Olympic athlete could not even begin to challenge what these robots are capable of. Just look at the video I just twatted on Twitter from TNATW. It's mind-blowing. And you'll see, oh yeah, that's the future. Humans cannot do that. This is going to kill supermarkets. The future is you click what you want to buy. These robots zoom, get it all in a box in less than 1 minute. Boom, it's out the door in an autonomous delivery drone system to your house. That's the future. There's no question about it. If you have any hesitation about that inevitable reality, go ahead and take a look at the video and then reconsider the inevitable future that I'm discussing. If you have any doubt whatsoever, just watch that little video I just showed you, and then tell me that isn't the future of how everything's going to get shipped into a
Yep,
box to your house.
that was it. That's the video talking about Two
I
Tyler where I
know.
saw it, and I'm like, when I saw it, I'm like, game over.
Game over. Game over.
Because you can get multiple floors because you don't need to deal with a human's height either. So you can have 2 or 3 floors in a regular 2-story building, right? And
these things are moving. It's just mind-boggling. It's like I'm trying to think of where else a computer is so more dominant than a human in ping pong. They're quite good. I'm trying to think where else are robots just dominating humans. It's hard to express. You got to see the video. Anyway, thank you for that, Ben, for finding that video. So next headline, interesting headline going on. Oh, then update to the Activision Blizzard drama. Boy, it's been a week. So this all started when a lawsuit was filed against Activision Blizzard, one of the world's largest video game publishers, makers of World of Warcraft and Call of Duty and other of the biggest video game titles of all time, where the CEO stepping down and they're facing a huge California lawsuit of sexual harassment and discrimination. And now the newest headline, 48 minutes ago from the BBC, 3 more high-profile leaders have left gaming giant Activision Blizzard, including some from the new game Diablo 4. Diablo director Luis Barriga and designer Jesse McCree have both departed, as has Jonathan LeCraft, a designer of World of Warcraft. It follows the resignation of President J. Allen Brack and other executives in the wake of allegations of widespread sexual harassment of the company. No reason has been given for the 3 most recent departures. News of their leaving was first reported by gaming news site Kotaku. Good on you, BBC, for crediting Kotaku for being the first to break that news. That's unusual in this day and age of tech news coverage. And later confirmed by Activision Blizzard. It follows the filing of a legal case in the state of California against Activision Blizzard, which alleges widespread discrimination and sexual harassment at the firm. There you go. Tweeting that one out so you can go further on that one. But that's an interesting update. Are they publicly traded? Because that stock's going to zero at this point.
Activision, I was just going to point that out. I mean, it is publicly traded, and it's actually barely down today.
You can ride that one down into the ground. That company's falling apart. What is their ticker? It is ATVI. And let's look at I wish I had started a month ago when the headline started. July, it really started falling July 26th. When did the first headline break about the lawsuit? Kind of regretting not shorting them after the lawsuit announcement. Let's see, 1 year to date. Yeah, July 23rd would have been the real sweet time. Although that's a whole bunch of shorting, and if it gets shorted too much, you're going to get the Wall Street Bets team trying to short squeeze everybody. So don't short that thing too hard, too fast. You're going to find yourself shorting a stock that goes up 100% overnight. So, yeah, everyone's hesitant to short stocks now. That might be why, Ken. Everyone's worried about shorting these days, given in the age of Wall Street Bets.
I think the reason, and may be incorrect, because you probably understand the business, I know you do, better than the average, than the typical people who have got money in the stock. They probably think all these people are replaceable, and therefore, and in fact, the IP content still belongs to Activision, right? So that's very valuable, all the games. Okay. So that's probably the reason you don't see a tremendous sell-off. I think if something happens where Bobby leaves, the actual CEO, then you will see a sell-off.
It must be that the news broke on July 23rd, looking at the stock chart. And even since then, it's only down from 90 to 85, which is...
Yeah, it broke on the 22nd. Yeah, I just checked.
Yeah, and then it started falling on the 23rd. It's only down 5% from then. Wow.
If you want to think about, I'll give you kind of a corollary to this. Pixar. There was a time when everybody thought, Pixar was completely dependent on John Lasseter, and turns out that wasn't the case. But John Lasseter kind of got squeezed out of Pixar on similar types or somewhat similar types of issues, and and that was everybody but it turns out there are other people who could write stories and come up with productions for Pixar. So I think Wall Street looks at this and says, people are generally replaceable. I mean, even Steve Jobs. I mean, Apple's continued on.
Yep.
So, I think they shrug a lot of this off as people being
Yeah.
replaceable.
I'm not worried about one person leaving. I'm concerned about waves of people leaving, because this is an indicator that there's a whole lot of drama going on internally that's making it uncomfortable to stay there.
I think you're right about the waves, because all of a sudden, if you lose 30, 40 people working on a product, that's a bigger deal than losing one person. You're right.
I think it's become a toxic work environment, because they become, you know how it was reported that like 25 or 30% of people did the signature collection, that they feel that this the work environment is sexist and sexual harassment and sexual discrimination. A lot of people didn't sign it, right? And then that kind of an issue, it starts to become like, these hot button issues between Republicans and Democrats, where people don't want to work together anymore. It becomes a very toxic environment, overly political, Black Lives Matter, critical race theory. It becomes a powder keg of an unproductive environment. That's my.
Well, you could always buy puts if you're worried about like getting short squeezed. Just buy some
Tyler,
puts.
if you zoom out though, this stock chart looks good. I mean, it's in range. I mean, it's staying in trend and it's not falling because the chart looks strong.
Let's give it a month. Okay.
There are some big dips, and probably due to events, but it's going up and to the right.
Yeah. So thank you Vinay. Did you send in this one about India's digital policies are putting U.S. tech in a bind? Thank you to whoever sent that one in. They're obviously right. We've been talking about that longer than most. So the next one is really interesting one. Normi sent in from Mashable about a company behind Shay's new digs want to help solve the housing crisis with their massive 3D printing capabilities. And now they've figured it out. They want to 3D print homes for the homeless. Or maybe more accurately, and you got to see these 3D printed homes. They're actually freaking beautiful. There's in the video that I just twatted on Twitter, and they're interviewing people moving into these new homes as people who previously didn't have homes. And they're interviewing a heroin addict, and it's gorgeous little homes. I think it's a step up from a regular apartment, honestly. So anyway, the 3D printing aspect is really cool. They have rounded corners because they're 3D and they're printed in layers. It's really cool looking.
Tyler, there's a startup in India that's doing 3D printing houses in India as well. So It's everywhere.
Yeah. But if that can lower the cost of homes, it's super cool. So the next
they don't use reinforcements inside those. How
right.
are they going to the quality needs to be really up to the mark to make these houses.
That's a good
question. I mean, what's unique about 3D printing is you can do what they call finite element analysis. So the computer can optimize the design. So you put voids in certain places, and it actually makes the structure stronger. So I'm sure they're going to probably employ that because they can save on material costs, make it stronger, yada, yada, yada. Shut up.
So another topic that we've been discussing at length for hours and have even moved on from is now being picked up by Nikkei Asia. Will China's digital yuan replace the dollar? 50 years after Nixon shock, a new era of international finance is dawning. For years, China's efforts to develop a digital currency seemed intended for domestic use only. The introduction of the e-yuan, which is still being tested, would help China go cashless while giving the central bank tight centralized control over digital money. And that's a little teaser of that one. And the answer is absolutely yes. Due to all the endless discussion we've had on this topic, absolutely the digital yuan is at least a direct existential challenge to the US dollar hegemony. It's quite simple, actually. So I just tweeted that one out to the Tech News Twitter account. Thank you for that one, Poppy. And Poppy also said China is years ahead of other major countries in the development of the digital yuan, giving Beijing the chance to expand its influence, is kind of the synopsis there. And then someone named Pam sent in this one. Planet that may support life found, and it's not far away at all. A new study found planets relatively close to Earth that may have an atmosphere that could protect and support life. So just tweeted that out in case you're looking for a new planet to live on. Pam also sent in this one, how a small neurotech startup beat Elon Musk's Neuralink to FDA approval, called Synchron. And this is actually a story from about a week ago, but still very interesting. Poppy found this one from CoinDesk. Ireland's central bank governor says that the digital euro is very likely. Yeah, we know that, actually. We've talked about that. It's not only likely, it's practically certain. It's part of their digital wallet. They even have a timeline for it. I think 2025. Pony AI is stopping their US IPO. We covered that. And DoorDash and Instacart, we covered that. And Instacart announces next generation fulfillment initiative. Online grocery platform Instacart unveiled the first phase of its company's next generation fulfillment initiative designed to bring automated technology solutions. We even have the video that we just shared like 10 tweets ago of the robots zooming around the chessboard of the factory floor, whizzing around, filling your order in record speed time. And Nikkei Japan, the big story, China's digital dollar killer. The digital yuan now appears to be the latest in a decade-long series of steps to internationalize China's currency and ultimately curb the global dominance of the dollar settlement system. Yep, Nikkei Asia, you got it right. That's what's going on. And then Nissan Motor on Monday will halt operations of an assembly plant in the U.S. due to a shortage of, say it with me, class, semiconductors. That's right. It's the chip shortage is shutting down Nissan's production of cars because they've run out of chips. UK regulator calls for Facebook to unwind the Giphy deal. We covered that. Kind of ridiculous, if you ask me. And the App Store competition targeted by bipartisan Senate bill, where we're going to force Google and Apple to allow developers to allow for downloads of their apps directly rather than forcing them to go through the app stores and charging 30%. A Yale doctor is introducing a new tool to fight the opioid crisis. It's a video game. A video game developed at Yale University aims to offer medical professionals a new tool as they seek to curb the country's opioid crisis, according to the Washington Post. Senior U.S. climate official says Australia's climate targets are not sufficient. U.S. Deputy Presidential Climate Envoy suggests Australia should aim for a 50% cut in emissions by 2030. Although we need to all cut 100. The globe has to cut 100% of emissions by 2030 to stay on target for the 1.5 Celsius, which ain't gonna happen. Which means we're gonna hit the tipping point, and we're gonna become climate refugees in our lifetime. We covered the side loading of apps. Thank you for that. China's NIO EV company plans 3 car models next year, sets up team for mass market brand, and plans to deliver 3 new car models next year, including its first sedan from NIO, one of the China EV companies that we're watching very patiently and diligently as Tesla built their factory in Shanghai and took copious notes. China's telecoms U.S. exile is a boon for investors, is the headline from Reuters. Listing shares on the New York Stock Exchange may carry prestige, but state-owned Chinese companies may offer better value in a new home in China. That's the headline. And the next one is from Kyodo News in Japan. Japan Public-Private Research Group to explore food production on the moon. Japan's government and its space agency will join hands with food and tech companies to launch research on developing a sustainable food source on the moon.
Florina, where you at?
Because that's where we'll gotta go. If this climate change keeps going crazy wazy, we're gonna have to all end up on the space station or on the moon, because it's a little easier to grow food with a little bit of gravity, perhaps. This is a headline from YouTube, from Nalormi. And the headline of the YouTube video is, "This is why emotional intelligence matters. We display more than 7,000 different facial expressions every day, and we perceive all of them in a very intuitive way. And that's why artificial intelligence or emotional artificial intelligence matters. We're going to have to program these AIs to understand emotions." And the next one from Ted Abramson via electronic blog says, U.S. Senate puts $40,000 cap on price of electric cars that qualify for the EV tax credit of $7,500. So the U.S. Senate has now voted to approve a new $40,000 threshold on the price of electric cars that would be eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit, which would then make the car cost $3,200. So that's going to force Tesla to make their next car under 40, and all the EV car companies to force them to make cars under $4,000 price tags to qualify for the additional $7,500 federal tax credit to the user. So great. Yeah, force the car companies to make the cars under 40,000 so that they'll cost 32,000. Love it. And that will push everyone into EVs. Good news. Indonesia, you got to see this one. An Indonesian village turns unwanted trash into a robot. You got to see this robot. A homemade robot designed by Indonesian villagers and scientists for fun has found a new use during the pandemic, bringing food and hopefully a smile of this trash-made robot to fight COVID. You just have to see it. Indeed, you will smile. And the next one is about Helium raises $111 million from Andreessen Horowitz to build a futuristic network of the people, where anybody can add a node on a network to provide connectivity everywhere. It's the people's network, and we're competing with the traditional big networks, and it's covering the planet. It's a planetary network. It's not just, it's competing with all the networks globally. And I think this is fantastic. It's one of the coolest things I've become aware of in a long time, called Helium Network. Check it out. People are making thousands of dollars a week just by putting up a single network point in their backyard. It's truly wild.
You would it could be an easy money maker to be in a high density area and just set up a bunch of these, right? And just make money off of it.
Yeah, it's wild. Oh, and Anna Marie just updated that she reached out to Senator Klobuchar, who's behind the big App Store bill. That would be fantastic. Thank you, Anna Marie. It'll be huge for Clubhouse. So this color-changing robo-chameleon is cool. So there's Gizmodo has a story I'm tweeting out now from Poppy that somebody's figured out a way to get chameleon-like skin, which is color-changing, like chameleons change colors. And someone has put a color-changing chameleon skin on a robot, so the robot can change its own color. Kind of wild. And then here's a headline: lethal autonomous weapons and World War III. It's not too late to stop the rise of killer autonomous weaponized drones. People have been listening in on our conversations here at Tech News Around the World. They're starting to talk about militarized drones, everybody. There's a headline. I just tweeted it out.
I want to live in a world where when we go to war, it's a technological war and only the drones are what get killed. If that can happen, I'd be all in.
Yep.
Chris, I think if we live in that world, we wouldn't go to war itself, because on computer itself, you would be able to simulate and see who's going to win. So let's not go to war.
So the next one is the Pentagon and advances experiments with autonomous barges to replace aircraft. Smart floating military gas or replenishing stations. The next phase of an existing agreement commits millions to demonstrate this emerging technology of autonomous barges. Interesting. And funny that now, tech news outlets are talking about militarized drones. Again, another topic we've talked about for at least a month here. So, India's big, this headline's from Nikkei Asia, India's big stakes look to push two-child policy with carrots and sticks. Proposals call for incentives, including higher pay, job assistance, and utility rebates. India on pace to become the world's most populous country by the end of the decade. And this is, I'm going to save this headline for last. That's a funny one. Let's save that one. South Korea's self-made billionaire outperform old school tycoons as economy enters new era. New elite of uber-rich entrepreneurs is rising in wealth rankings, overtaking the families behind the country's decade-old sprawling conglomerates, just like the rest of the world, by the way. Just like in Sweden, just like in America. And this is from South China Morning Post. Messaging app Kakao's founder Brian Kim recently replaced Samsung Group's heir J.Y. Lee as the nation's richest person. So now the richest person in Korea is a fintech founder, not the Samsung heir. Here it comes. That's what tech's all about. WhatsApp is making it easier to switch from iPhone to Android, letting you transfer your data. Good times. And Inflatable Labs set to speed up virus testing in China as they got to get a handle on Delta. And by the way, IOTA has just come out and it reportedly has a higher mortality rate and a higher virality rate, meaning it's more easy to catch and more deadly. Good times. It's called IOTA. Look, ask for it by name at your nearest 7-Eleven. And inflatable labs are being set up in China. And these inflatable labs, once you see them from the Twitter account, you'll see a photo of them. Why aren't we using this for refugee housing and, more importantly, homeless alternative housing? Once you see this, you'll know what I mean. It's kind of genius. And then what else do we got here? We've got the stock price, Wendy's opening cloud kitchens. And let's end it on this one. You got to love this headline. Ex-Goldman Sachs juniors make fortunes from dog flatulence. That's the headline. The question is how? How do you make money from dog farts?
Did he NFT it?
That you could be onto something. SoftBank's risk takers really need AI to work. It's a cliche these days to say that banking careers don't appeal to the younger generation, and that being the founder of a tech startup is what kids are all into. Nonetheless, we can't help noticing that there's still some kudos left in the blue chip names of finance. Even when announcing the close of a successful funding round, people like Kevin Glynn and David Nolan still like to mention they worked for Goldman Sachs. You gotta read. It's a very long article, and I'm not sure how the headline relates, but that's the headline indeed. So you can see I'm just retweeting that out now from Poppy. And let's see, are people, I still have, by the way, 10 hours of tweets to fish through, including this one from Abjit, that if you're anxious about climate change, this interactive outlet will let you explore the future so you can figure out where you want to be or not be. And there's now nearly 200 million in the U.S. under heat advisories. And the NSA awards a secret $10 billion contract to Amazon. Procter & Gamble and Coke's results prove you don't cut ad spend in a crisis. And what else do we got here? Chainmail fabric that stiffens on demand could be used to stop bullets. And we covered Pony AI not going to IPO. We covered the Google pay cut. And this guy, Cal Paddle, sends in this one about Fenty Beauty, how makeup helped Rihanna become a billionaire, inspiring a brilliant business strategy, surpassing Oprah as the wealthiest Black woman in America. And Tomoko has one about Hitachi that I'm just tweeting out. And here's the Wendy's 700 Ghost Kitchen trailer you can see. And that's all about Reeve. $2 at-home COVID test could detect variant in 55 minutes. Sign me up for that. Thank you, Evan, for that one. Amazon's $1.5 billion U.S. air cargo hub is open for business, where they can do 200 new flights a day. 3 doses of Sinovac is better than mixing with Pfizer, according to Turkish minister. I don't believe it. I'll wait for more data on that one. NTT launches a global private 5G network as a service platform. And the $1 trillion U.S. infrastructure bill provides the biggest investment in broadband ever. And we covered the reef. Domino's is trying to lure customers back from third-party delivery apps. Told you, that's what's going to happen. Domino's is trying to lure back from third-party delivery apps with a $50 million worth of free pizza. They got caught. They started using other people to deliver their food, and those delivery apps started offering competitive, stop ordering from Domino's, order from us. We'll get you pizza some other way. And they were Domino's sees what's going on. They got to if you don't do your own delivery, you're going to get fucked. You heard it here first. Domino's knows that better than anybody. They're one of the biggest delivery networks of their own in America. Domino's Pizza Delivery is the OG of ordering food and having it brought to your house. They have the biggest delivery network of food in America, and they started using other delivery apps, and now those delivery apps are going to fuck them. And now they saw it in their own data, and now they're fixing it. Good on you, Domino's. You don't fuck with Domino's. It's getting easier to share your Apple Health data with doctors for telehealth appointments. And you can read all about that from CNET. 42% of remote workers think co-workers and bosses partake during the workday. And they mean cannabis. And that's just an interesting survey. Mercedes-Benz unveils its poshest electric car yet. And it has a nap mode, so you can potentially take a nap while the car does its thing. Axie Infinity hits a record $1 billion in sales. What else is next here? We got how BioNTech created the next Delta-focused COVID vaccine in just a few weeks. And drinking bottled water is 1,400 times worse for the environment than drinking tap water. And China signals new laws on privacy, data, and antitrust. Government rolls out blueprint that reflects changes in high-tech finance. And we had the IPCC report. Mukesh Ambani joins Bill Gates and others to invest $144 million in a new battery company. The rise of Zoom cities. The hotspots booming under remote work. Ooh, this is who's booming? Who's booming? The new Zoom cities. Who are it's paywalled, you bastards at the Independent. Oh, no, it's not paywalled. Here we go. They list Tampa and St. Petersburg, Florida, Raleigh, Charlotte, North Carolina, Boulder in Denver, Colorado, Nashville, Tennessee, and that's in America. The real question is, Zoom cities outside of Denver, Frisco, Texas, near Dallas, Bellevue, Washington, Carlsbad, California, my hometown, also the hometown of Paul from Clubhouse, just north of there, Solana Beach. You can actually see the map in this article I just tweeted. Every headline I'm reading, I'm tweeting out simultaneously, by the way. So anyway, they're listing cities that are booming now that people can live anywhere. And yes, Carlsbad would be one of them. And they talk about Zoom's new focus mode could help students from distracting each other. Something they call focus mode. The mode keeps participants' eyes on the host. And we covered Messi's departure, payment, and crypto. Evan's got one about an MIT algorithm trains drones to fly faster without crashing. And Eruditus is the name of a startup. It's the new unicorn edtech in India. And what else do we got here? Elon Musk is going to launch a satellite that displays ads in space. That's true. Techies think we're on the cusp of a virtual world called the metaverse, but the article's author doesn't believe it. How hackers stole $613 million in crypto. They've already returned half of it. Twitter locks account of India's largest opposition party. That is kind of news from Sylvan. Twitter has locked the account of Indian National Congress, the South Asian national's largest opposition party, for violating its rules. And what else do we got here? The Babylonian scoop on Pythagoras. That doesn't really sound relevant. And new model.
Well,
Yeah,
that's actually I think that's a pretty good article, actually.
is it from DW?
So, I don't see the one that you're looking at, but I just read one. I think it was like 2 days ago that the Pythagorean theorem was actually way earlier. Like this math.
Oh yeah, this is an old article.
Earlier.
Yeah, it's been revealed that the Babylonians used trigonometry 1,000 years before the Greeks. We read that headline 2 months ago, but now it's back in DW from Germany.
Gotcha.
Yeah. A new model allows 3M employees to choose how and when they work. And what else we got? We got everyone keeps tweeting in the Sweden article as the Silicon Valley of Europe. Cal Patel finds an interview with a guy named Tyler Crowley and the quote unquote, the Tyler Crowley effect on Stockholm and its tech ecosystem is the headline from Financial Times, sister publication called Sifted EU. So you can watch this interview with some dude named Tyler Crowley and his effect on the Stockholm tech ecosystem. How
Tyler, I was speaking to one of my friend who works in Nordea. He knows you, like he's a big shot.
Yeah, Nordea's been a good partner. It's one of the biggest banks in the Nordics, and they've been a very nice partner of mine for every bank in the Nordic has been a partner of mine for many years, actually. Swedbank and Nordea, and now Danske Bank and Swedbank, all of them. Yeah. Who do you know at Nordea?
So I work for Nordea.
Yeah,
I was there in Stockholm. So there's he leads this risk management.
Okay.
I cannot pronounce his name. It's like typical Oliver. And then the name goes like BJ,
Bjorn.
Janbo.
Yeah.
Bonbo. Yeah. So that's
okay. Yeah. The Nordics is not a big, it's 10 million people, and if you're in tech, and people know each other. It's not that impressive. And I do the biggest conferences. If anyone's in tech, they know me, and I probably know them. So the Reddit raises 410 million, and that catches us up to the last 5 hours of tweets. So I'm going to pause it there, and I promise to catch up on the last 5 hours of tweets before we meet next time, which is about, exactly 12 and a half hours from now. So please do join us then, and thank you to everybody for another headline-filled version of Tech